Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Anna Kasparian. Cenk is out until Wednesday, actually, but we have an awesome panel for both hours of the show. Here with me is Brian Karem. You just told me how to pronounce it correctly, and I mispronounced it anyway.
Close enough for government work.
Karem, so Brian is the senior White House reporter for Playboy, and also you have a podcast, Just Ask the Question.
Just ask the question, that's it.
Yes, all right.
Just ask it.
Thank you for joining us, and we have Alonzo Bowden. You're all familiar with him. He's been on several times before. I'm excited for this hour because later we're gonna talk about how Seth Meyers is going to provide an option to skip the Trump jokes in his latest Netflix special. So I wanna get your thoughts on that and just the state of comedy. That's always fun to talk about.
I'm here for you.
Yeah, all right, but before we get to all that, we do have one quick announcement to make. So as you know, we usually have a Revolution rally in addition to special debate coverage. So we're having our next TYT rally in Atlanta, Georgia on November 20th. If you're interested in going, you can always check out the details at tyt.com/rally. We will have Clarkston mayor and candidate for Senate, Ted Terry. He will be speaking there, and you might know him from a conversation he had on The Conversation with Cenk, so please check that out. And I'm looking forward to it. So as always, we'll do our special debate coverage in addition to the Revolution rally. Again, go to tyt.com/rally for more information. All right, let's get to the news. Impeachment stuff.
Oh, that.
It's never ending, but this is
Wait a minute, that's news?
I know, right? All right, well, White House officials have decided to defy congressional subpoenas and were supposed to appear before congressional committees today to essentially give their depositions. But the Justice Department under the Trump administration has advised these individuals to avoid appearing and responding to the subpoenas. To give you some more details, John Eisenberg, the top lawyer at the National Security Council, was directed by Trump and the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel to stay away from his scheduled closed-door deposition. And that's according to a statement that was made public by Eisenberg's lawyer. Under these circumstances, Mr. Eisenberg has no other option that is consistent with his legal and ethical obligations except to follow the direction of his client and employer, the President of the United States. Accordingly, Mr. Eisenberg will not be appearing for a deposition at this time. Now keep in mind, there's been several Trump administration officials who have given depositions, who have testified in these closed door hearings. However, some of these Trump administration officials have decided to take the advice of Donald Trump and the Justice Department and avoid appearing.
I like the use of the word ethical when they say that they are not going to show up. I think the ethics would determine that you would show up because it's obstruction of justice if you don't.
Right.
And when is someone going to just go after these people, find them in contempt of Congress, slap the cuffs on them and drag them in?
Do you think, do you think Democrats have it in them to do this?
It's a good question. I've often heard it said that the only thing worse than a Republican is a Democrat. They have some good ideas of holding him to justice. We'll have to see what happens. I think Nancy Pelosi has been very smart so far in the way she's advanced impeachment. And I think the public hearings are where you're going to really find out if anyone has anything. And at that point in time, I think some of these people will be compelled to come forward. And I think the telling of the tape will be this week if John Bolton testifies. He could end up being, the John Dean of this whole thing.
Well, the interesting and actually the funny thing about this administration is
there's something funny.
Yeah, well, not only does everyone in this administration have a lawyer, but now their lawyers have lawyers.
Right.
That has to be unprecedented, where everyone who works at the White House has a lawyer. Right?
Watergate was kind of like that too.
Yeah. Once it got there, but not from the very start.
Yeah, that's right. You take the oath of office. Here's my lawyer, and here's his attorney.
Yeah, exactly. So and that obviously, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So if everyone is lawyering up, and then the lawyers are lawyering up, and they're like, we're not going to go in that room. We're not going to talk. And the other thing is this strategy of, okay, we're going to make it about the procedure and try to get you to stop looking at the phone call. Stop looking at the substance of the impeachment. Let's just get stuck into the procedure to try to discount the treason or whatever. Whatever ultimately the legal term is, but
obstruction of justice.
Obstruction of justice. But I'm talking about further. I'm talking about the making a deal with a foreign government against a U.S. presidential candidate.
That would be an abuse of power. I don't think it'll be a criminal. I think it's going to be a violation of his oath of office. Everyone treats it like it's a criminal proceeding, but the quid pro quo, that's for a criminal trial. This is just the abuse of office. Strictly speaking, the Democrats could say, look, the quid pro quo doesn't mean anything. What matters is the fact that you tried to make a deal with a foreign government and to, and I'm not going to curse, and then do something bad to your own government.
Right.
Yeah, well, and I respect that, and I defer to you on that because you work at the White House and you understand the legal part of this.
I don't know about that anymore, but
well, no, but I'm just talking about to the person on the street, right?
Yeah.
Like the person on the street. It's like, what? The president's making a deal with another country against an American citizen?
Right.
It's just wrong.
And you're right that they're focusing on the process, even though the Democrats have conducted this investigation lawfully. They haven't done anything out of the ordinary. In fact, when it comes to the closed door hearings, as we've talked about on the show before, what paved the way for these closed door hearings was what John Boehner pushed for and accomplished back in 2015 when they were conducting investigations into Hillary Clinton and the whole Benghazi mess. So this is their own doing, and they know they can't attack the substance because the substance is damning. You have various members of Trump's administration coming forward, testifying in these closed door hearings. We have their statements, Bill Taylor's statement, Lieutenant Colonel Vidman's statement,
President
Gordon
Trump's
Sondland's
statement.
President Trump's
statement. He was standing 5 feet away from me.
No, it was a very good phone call. It was the best phone call ever.
Well, he's 5 feet away from me on the South Lawn taking questions and says, yeah, China, go ahead and do it.
That's right.
So, he fessed up to it in front of me. And then I was told later that I didn't hear what I know I heard.
Exactly.
But the closed door hearings, to your point, haven't been closed door. The Democrat, there's been 50 Republicans in there.
Right.
Then you got that frat boy fascist, Matt Gaetz, storming the Bastille, reminding me of a scene out of Animal House. See if you can guess what I am now. I'm a zit, get it? That was his whole deal. Him and his troops go crashing in there, and they were already allowed to be there. And finally, to the big point is when you talk about attacking the process, it's an old lawyer's trick.
Yeah.
If you have the law in your favor, argue the law. If you have the facts in your favor, argue the facts. When you can't argue the law and you can't argue the facts, pound your fists on the table and act like you're a zit. That's exactly what they're doing.
That's where the press, and this is where the press gets it when they say that this is divided along party lines and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's not party line. It's like right and wrong. It's like cover up versus truth. It's not party lines, right?
Versus fiction.
Versus
That's what it is.
So again, this muddies the water, right? It muddies the coverage of this because this is what the Republicans love. And their base loves when you say, well, it's just Democrats attacking. It's just a witch hunt. It's just, and it's like, no, it's not that. But I think the media needs to get more into clarifying, like, no, this isn't just party lines. This is what's being done, and like you said, this is what's being said behind these closed doors, and so on.
Well, you're right, and we don't. The problem with the press isn't that we're not. The problem, honestly, with the press is sometimes I just don't think people are listening. I think they have picked their side. Look, we could always do our job better.
Let me just say, no, but there is this obsession in the press with being objective, right? And I think, as we've talked about before on the show,
objectively, he's lying.
Well, yeah, he is lying.
I mean, I'm as objective as I can be there. He's lying.
In an effort to be objective, though, I feel like various media organizations have invited dishonest actors to come on and defend Donald Trump.
I can't disagree with you there.
And unfortunately, look, I'm gonna keep it real. Pundits on the left are just not as good at fighting back against the lies that they tell in real time, right? So they'll have like some sheepish, Democratic strategist or whoever trying to give the Democrats' point of view, and then you have some guy steamrolling in favor of Trump, and it's really frustrating. Like, drawing these false equivalencies drives me nuts, and I think that it's really helping the Trump administration.
But that is also, I'm sorry.
No, the part of the problem there is that there's things that you have to understand. The reporters are there to ask the questions and to provide the information. What I think you're talking about is not the news, but the panel shows, which I'm on. And I understand, it makes good TV, but we need to, in some cases, perhaps vet these people a little bit better. And it does become a bit of a show. This is a show. This is, the news is, look, I asked the question, this was the answer. Here's the truth. And we do fact check him in real time often. And I've asked him to his face, why do you continue to lie to the American people?
Right.
And I get, the finger pointed at me, the stink face, and he goes nuts. But there's not a whole lot you can do about that except perhaps vet some of the guests. I talked to Kellyanne Conway, and I honestly,
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
You're to be commended, but you said something. You used a word that they refused to use: lie. He lied, and they're like, "Well, we can't say that."
Yeah, we can.
We
can.
But you do. No,
yes,
what I'm saying is you do. But so many. To your point, Anna, so many of them won't say that, and these panels, like you were talking about, like it's cast that way. Like that's why they're not inviting you. Like
to Cuomo's credit, he does invite me. And the last time I was on, there was some
Chris
Trump
is a good
advisor.
Friend of mine. I like him.
Chris is great. No, he's great because even though I don't agree with him on some policies or even candidates in the Democratic election, a primary election, I do like the fact that he gives a progressive like me an opportunity to go up against some of these Trump advisors. The last time I was on, there was a Trump advisor who was just completely lying about the legality of the process of the impeachment process. And so, yeah.
Oh, don't worry, they lie about immigration too.
Well, of course they do. We have a story on that later.
You don't have to, you can end the sentence with "they lie." Period. That's it. If somebody from this administration tells me the sky is blue, I'm checking.
Yeah.
Because I have never met, look, I've been covering presidents since Reagan. I've been spun, I've been told it's none of my business, but I've never been routinely lied to on such a daily basis. It's just frustrating, and it has nothing to do with politics. And as far as progressives go, look, I'll pick on them as much as I'll be, and I get upset with reporters who say, well, look, I don't vote because, I want to be able to be fair. No, I vote. And I'm not. And guess what? It's a secret ballot. You're never going to. And you may not even be able to guess who I would vote for. But the situation is we are there covering the president, and whoever is the president deserves strict scrutiny. that we hold truth to power and we should do our jobs. We have over the years become, we put our heads down, we're gonna go straight ahead, we're gonna ask these questions, we're gonna do it the way we've always done it. Donald Trump changed the rules, people. That's the difference. Donald Trump called us the enemy of the people.
Right.
We're not, we are the people. You look in that press room and there's hundreds of people of all race, creeds, colors, there asking questions. He creates an environment and creates an enemy. And you can either, there's really only one way to deal with a bully. You gotta thump him back and let him know you're not taking it.
Well, that whole enemy of the people thing, it's the fact that his followers and so many believed it. You know what I mean?
Still do.
Like they believe,
And
like
still do.
when
Because
your
it's
argument,
easy.
when you give a whole argument, you lay it out, and then someone just says fake news. It's like what?
It's
like,
easy.
but that's become the argument, right? Just say, well, fake news.
Well,
and then,
he's
It's
very
very,
good at
easy
three-word
to
slogans.
immediately dismiss evidence contrary to your preconceived notions, right? If someone just says fake news, all right, well, I don't have to think critically about the evidence that's been presented to me. Now, look, here's the issue. John Eisenberg, who just refused to comply with congressional subpoenas, is one of the individuals who is not only aware of the phone call, he's the one who made the decision to place the actual phone call, the transcript of the phone conversation between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky in a top secret server. And so it is important to get his testimony. I would venture to say that despite what the White House wants, eventually he's probably gonna have to comply, but that's just me guessing. Let me give you some more information though on what's going on, because Eisenberg isn't the only individual who refused to comply. The Office of Legal Counsel deemed the subpoena invalid, and Paul Butler, who is Michael Ellis's lawyer, he is the deputy for Eisenberg, basically said, we've been instructed not to appear, so we're just not gonna appear. And so we'll see how this plays out. It really does depend on how Democrats respond to this. And just judging by how Adam Schiff comes off here, I don't know if they're willing to really fight. So just take a look at his statement in response to Trump administration officials refusing to comply with subpoenas.
This will be further evidence of an effort by the administration to obstruct the lawful and constitutional duties of Congress. We expect the witnesses who have been subpoenaed to come in this afternoon at White House instruction also to be no-shows. This will only further add to the body of evidence on a potential obstruction of Congress charge against the president. Indeed, in the Nixon impeachment, there was an article of impeachment based on the obstruction of Congress that itemized each of the subpoenas that the White House had defied. Well, today we have 4 additional subpoenas to add to the list.
So he's saying that Congress will find them in contempt of Congress.
Contemptible.
We'll see. We'll see.
Just contemptible.
well, that's good. I mean, if they do that and it adds to the articles of impeachment, then I think that's a good. I don't know how much power it carries, but they're following, I guess, the legal procedures step by step. This is how you do it. So
this next video features Adam Schiff talking about how Democrats have given what Republicans wanted in terms of process and they're still complaining. I think this is an important video to share with you because this is where I come in and really criticize Democrats. They should not buy into the framing that their political opponents demand. Take a look.
We have seen a series of shifting, ever-changing rationales for this campaign of obstruction. First, there was the argument, we won't comply, don't have to comply until there's a formal vote on the House floor. Well, we had a formal vote on the House floor. Then it was, we don't have to make these witnesses available because they're senior officials and they're given absolute immunity, even though no court has ever upheld the claims of absolute immunity. But then when people who were subpoenaed had little or no interaction with the president and there couldn't be even a colorable claim of some kind of immunity, the explanation shifted once again to, well, we're not going to let them come forward because you won't let agency lawyers present. This was the practice for the current members of our investigative committees, people like Jim Jordan during Benghazi, and people like Mike Pompeo, and people like Mick Mulvaney, all participated in depositions of senior agency officials without the presence of agency counsel.
So as you guys know, the House voted on formalizing the impeachment investigation, and I see that as a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's positive that they're going to make these hearings public. They're going to release some of the transcripts in regard to testimony that's already been given in closed-door hearings. But at the same time, it is what Republicans kept latching onto when they were complaining about process. Oh, these closed-door hearings, we can't believe it, this is wrong, even though, again, as Schiff mentioned in that video, they used the closed-door hearings in investigating Hillary Clinton. But at the same time, like Schiff shouldn't be surprised that if you give in to what they want, they're gonna move the goalposts. Of course they're gonna do that.
I'll push back a little bit there. I think what we're watching is a chess game. And it's all about the numbers. And this is what makes Donald Trump nervous, are the numbers. And he plays checkers, they're playing chess. And what it boils down to in the end, we knew how that vote was going to go. When Nancy Pelosi called for the vote, for the formal investigation, everyone pretty much knew how that vote would go. And that's probably gonna be what happens when they impeach him, and they are going to impeach him. I mean, I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think it'll probably happen before Christmas or slightly after. Then we'll probably have a couple of months of, well, we'll have the hearings first, and then it'll go to the Senate, and sometime in the spring, the Senate's gonna take a vote. So based on what we have in public hearings, people coming forward, the polling, the Republicans sit at a nexus of 2 stress points. And if the vote comes down in the Senate for removal, you know, impeachment being the indictment, and the Senate, the trial, and the removal, those senators, those Republican senators, and they need 20 of them, are gonna be looking at one thing, numbers. So when Schiff does what he does, it's to give the people in those districts say, look, we did this, and then the numbers will move. What they want is an overwhelming number, because as I said, you're sitting at a nexus there. So the Republicans, if they vote for Trump in impeachment and against impeachment removal, then they risk losing the general election. If they vote against Donald Trump and for impeachment and removal, they risk being primary.
Right.
So I've said this for weeks now, and I hope people hear it. The future of our republic rests on the supple, round shoulders of Mitch McConnell.
Gross.
And at some point in time, he's gonna have to walk into the president and go, look, numbers don't lie. You don't have them. And that's what I think that's what we're seeing out of Schiff and Nancy Pelosi right now, is an attempt to get those numbers to move. I don't care about that. They know daggone well that the Republicans have been in those hearings. And they know daggone well, and the Republicans know daggone well, that this process is fairer than anything that was given to Clinton or given to Nixon. They're all trying to maneuver the numbers. And I think that's what we're seeing is that game of chess.
Yeah, well, the hypocrisy of that, they do that all the time, right? So
well,
this is what we, this is the exact procedure we followed against Clinton, and it was fine. Now, that's ridiculous. That procedure's illegal, right? But to what you said, and I hope people are listening, because ultimately, yeah, it's gonna come down to the numbers. They're all politicians, right? Their whole job is to keep their job. So the question is, and this is where the danger is with the Democrats, to get caught up in the minutia and lose, because you lose people in the minutia. You need people like it simple.
Yeah.
It's something the Republicans have always been better at, just giving a simple message, a slogan, or whatever. That's why Lock 'Em Up was so funny at the baseball game. That's why it was hilarious, because it was like, that's un-American. Well, we learned it from you.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But I think you're right with the procedure, but ultimately we'll see where the numbers go.
Yeah. Well, the numbers are looking good
attention
for people who want Donald Trump impeached. The support for not only impeachment but also removal has a small, majority. So that's good news, but we'll see how this all plays out. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we have Donald Trump obsessing over the whistleblower. We'll give you his chopper talk on that and more when we return.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hun. And this has been The Breakdown. Was that good, guys?
Okay, not enough hashtag use. Hashtag abs, hashtag model, hashtag woke bae.
Hashtag one black friend.
I'm thinking more rings.
I got him here.
You need more accessories, way more accessories.
I don't know where to put it.
Come on, throw these on. Woke bae, not sleep bae.
More sexy too.
When's the last time you posted on Instagram? Too long. Come on, man. No, you need to post at least once an hour. What's the outfit of the day today? Is this what you're going with?
This is what I'm gonna go with.
No. We need more accessories. We need.
This doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't.
For your gay audience, man.
Yeah,
Come
the
on.
gays love you, man.
Okay. What else? What else do I need to do?
You haven't appropriated a culture in a week.
We have like a kimono or something.
Damn,
about
that
the
looks
video?
good on you,
Is
dude.
this-
Perfect. How many rings you got on? Do we have any more?
I got 3 more.
Yeah, can we get more rings on this?
And when you're done, kiss the ring. Look at the camera. Kiss the ring. Maybe like a little wink.
Islam's role in terrorism and all the Huffington Post articles weren't doing well. I wasn't.
How many likes did our last outfit of the day picture have?
Only like 100,000.
So I think that's where your focus needs to be. I hear you on all the blah, blah, blah social issue. We need to focus on followers.
Kids in Yemen.
We don't care if you sleep at night.
Dab, dab.
Okay, I'll dab.
There you go.
More.
Talk about yourself more.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, be more into it.
Instagram is important for me. Americans losing access to healthcare coverage.
I hear you. Attack Tommy more.
I've done it so many. She shoots out of her living room now. It's like punching down now.
We're okay with that. But it helps the brand.
We made you. We got you verified.
You're nothing
come
without
on.
us.
So I don't know what else I need to do here.
Dude, just take off that shirt.
That's exactly why Tommy Lauren is stupid. I hate you. I'm Hassan Piker. Follow me on Instagram.
Hashtag WokeBay.
Hashtag WokeBay. Please follow me.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Cenk Uygur joins us.
We are progressive and unapologetically so. Very happy to say that millennial and Gen Z generations are massively progressive along with us.
Democrats, they've been so weak for so long. For God's sake, fight for your side.
I would not like to compromise with Republicans. I would like to defeat them. Lynn, do you support Donald Trump?
Yes, I like Donald Trump.
Well, that's why we think you're racist. The 5 black kids in Central Park did not commit the rape. He said, who cares? Keep them in prison anyway. They probably did something. He's a terrible guy. Very fine people on the side chanting, Jews will not replace us. He says we should ban all Muslims. Well, that's bigotry by definition. He said it during the campaign trail over and over again. Called Latinos criminals and rapists. See, you're used to Republicans being strong on television and Democrats cowering. New day in America. Progressives, we actually fight back.
Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian, Brian Karam, and Alonzo Bowden with you. I want to read some member comments before we move on to the rest of the news. I bathe in a very stable genius's tears, writes in and says, the level of privilege the Trump administration enjoys is unprecedented. What normal person can outright ignore subpoenas and get away with it?
I know I couldn't. Could you?
No. I try every time they send me jury duty. I'm like, maybe I'll ignore this. They're like, oh no, you won't.
They drag me off to jail.
By the way, if a close associate of ours testified that we committed tax fraud while like, would the IRS just kind of like let that go?
No, probably not.
Yeah.
And pleasure to know you. And if she did it, I have nothing to do with it.
Well, you know, Anna,
I know nothing about it.
Anna is a billionaire. It's all hidden in the Cayman Islands.
I don't know if I'd be here if I were a billionaire. All right, let's move on to Wendy S. Wow, the amazing Brian is in the TYT house. What a pleasant surprise.
Thank
Got
you.
some fans. And Meg says, oh yes, let's hear from Adam. And then there's a bunch of Z's. Oh, whoops, I fell asleep there. So you got to admit, though, I mean, Adam Schiff seems so uninterested in everything that's going on, and maybe that's part of his play. Maybe he wants to appear dispassionate, but it's just, I don't know. It just
for those who want to see something happen, they want to see the Democrats more passionate. For those who want to see Donald Trump stay in office, they want to see a placid, flaccid, and almost incapacitated Adam Schiff. And I think he's trying to walk a tightrope, and it's hard to do.
I don't know. I think
he's
they
on
need.
the
Or you
side
just
of
think
that.
he's placid and incapacitated.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to use that wording, but yeah, definitely.
You need a dynamic speaker. This is a fight.
Yeah.
This is a fight.
Yes,
You
yes.
need somebody.
That's what I'm saying.
You need somebody that people like, did you hear what he said? Like that, you need someone to rally behind or whatever, because yeah, you need that person. You need a voice.
Yeah, I totally agree.
There's somebody in Congress, on some level, right, who has that voice. They need to find him or her.
I think they need to find that in a candidate for president.
Well, that would be the ultimate, but they need to find him or her and put them in front of the microphone and say, yeah, you carry the message because you've got the voice.
Right. All right, well, let's move on to more impeachment-related news.
The whistleblower should be revealed because the whistleblower gave false stories. Some people would call it a fraud. I won't go that far, but when I read it closely, I probably would.
Holy Mary, Mother
All right,
of Mary.
so there's Donald Trump, another edition of Chopper Talk. Yes.
So Brian, you have to listen to this every day.
Yes, I do. And I'm usually the one asking the questions that prompt that. And
so let me give you the details on what he's saying now, and I think this is just part of the distraction, as we know that there's been a number of White House officials who were subpoenaed to testify before congressional committees in the impeachment investigation. They've decided to defy those subpoenas, and so Trump is focusing on something that, quite honestly, is pretty irrelevant at this point. The whistleblower, who is it, and when is the media going to reveal this person's identity?
He's trying to egg us on to do it. He wants us to release that name. And first of all, I know Mark Zaid, who's the whistleblower's attorney. There are more than one. There are multiple whistleblowers.
Right.
And they are irrelevant. They are factually not necessary to the narrative at this point. The president of the United States walked out and 5 feet from me told me exactly what the whistleblower said he was worried about. He or she was worried about. In addition, there have been other people come forward and testify. What the president is doing here is to try to deflect, but the more important thing is destroying the credibility of anyone who should come forward in the future, and in the process, he is a predator, destroying the Whistleblower Act. It doesn't matter if the whistleblower is right or wrong. The whistleblower merely came forward and said, look, I feel like this is wrong and it should be looked into. Following the exact rule of law and the way it should be done, the whistleblower presented information and the president released a transcript, which was really a memo, not a transcript, about, and then in that, he verified everything that the whistleblowers said was wrong.
You're exactly right. I mean, Donald Trump has incriminated himself over and over again, and he's the one who made the decision to release that memo of the phone call he had with Zelensky. And then on top of that, of course, you have, again, several of Donald Trump's officials testifying that yes, there was quid pro quo. Yes, this was problematic. And this is a form of intimidation. This is essentially messaging to anyone in government. If you have the audacity to speak out against me, even if you do so through legal means, I will come for you. Exactly.
And that you said it earlier, used the word earlier, and it's true. It's bullying.
Yeah.
It's bullying because if you're in that whistleblower's position, or if you're any position where you're working, who knows what level it might be. It might be clerical, it might be whatever, but you hear something where, just like you said, like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. I should say so. But if you're in a position of no power, now are you gonna do that? You know how scary that is? Because the reality is a lot of these people who work in the administration, the worker bees, you know what I mean? They need the job. Like you have bills, you have a family, you have a career. And this can destroy your career, where not only do you lose this job, you can't find anything in the future. This is
kind of like Sean Spicer.
Your life.
Bullying. Yes, Spicer.
But it goes beyond, I just gotta say, it goes way beyond career. I mean, we know the type of political climate we're living in. We know the type of political violence that's been encouraged by someone like Donald Trump.
Yes.
You know, targeting a specific person like this and doing so relentlessly not only potentially destroys this person's career, but could destroy their life, you know?
And then
it goes farther than that. It's destroying the republic.
Yeah.
It's destroying on an international level. It's ruined our reputation, and it's giving cover to despots who in the past we condemned, we're cozying up to, and others will use what Donald Trump does to give them verification for what they do.
Right, it makes it okay.
Yeah.
Well, the president of the United States did.
So hey, we can do it.
So it's okay. Yeah, this is bullying at the worst, and it's bullying people who can't fight back. Right, these are the people who can't hire a lawyer who has a lawyer who has a lawyer. You know what I mean? And go. These are people you can't fight on this level.
Well, luckily there are some lawyers in DC who will take these cases pro bono. Mark Zaid, who is the attorney for the whistleblowers at this point, is one of the best. And the thing is he's getting hit by the Republicans going, look, you know, you're obviously partisan. And he goes, wait a minute, fellas,
what
I'm
happened to
independent.
attorney-client privilege,
Well,
by the way?
By the way, he also defended like the Daily Caller for a FOIA request. He's defended the Republicans in one of the cases against Hillary Clinton. He's totally independent.
He's even offered to have the whistleblower respond to Republicans' questions in written form. And Donald Trump, of all people, rejected that and said, no, it's unacceptable. He needs to show up and testify.
Well, that's because writing requires reading.
Well,
and Donald, you know, now, Anna, let's be fair.
And remember, during the Mueller investigation, Trump didn't want to testify.
There's a comedian coming out of you.
You mean I got to read it? Never mind.
I tweeted out, I said today, do you want someone to read it to you?
Are there going to be any illustrations, some pictures? All right, well, let's go to the next video because Trump continues with his nonsense regarding the partisan leanings of this whistleblower.
Certain of the media released information about a man that they said was the whistleblower. I don't know if that's true or not, but what they said is he's an Obama person. It was involved with Brennan, Susan Rice, which means Obama. But he was like a big anti-Trump person, hated Trump, and they said terrible things. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but that was reported by some of the media, so you'll have to find out.
The fake media.
The whistleblower does not matter. Even if by the way, there's no evidence that this is some partisan who's out for Trump. It doesn't even matter if he or she were. Because the fact of the matter is Donald Trump has already incriminated himself. In front of a helicopter, he talked about how China should investigate his political opponents.
I was there.
Yeah.
I'm an eyewitness to a disaster.
What was going through your mind when he made those statements?
When he said, well, the very next question I asked him is, I said, are you going to encourage Putin to investigate him? And that's when he walked away. But I mean, yeah, I don't know where you go at that point in time. I'm an eyewitness to it, and he doubled down on it in front of us to try and make it sound like there was nothing wrong. It was the perfect conversation. So Mick Mulvaney came out in the press briefing room and said, hey, look, we did it, get over it. We do it all the time. There was the confession, right? There, Trump confessed, Mulvaney confessed. What more do you need? Yes, I shot her, Your Honor. Yeah, and the witness, yes, I saw him shoot her, Your Honor. It's okay.
Let's go after the person who first reported that I shot her.
Yeah,
right. Like it
has nothing to do with the murder at this point. Just who was the one who ratted me out?
There's two things here I love. One, he said the person hates Trump, right? So you're doing an investigation. Say, what clue do we have? The person hates Trump.
Well,
okay,
that narrows it down.
That narrows it down to everybody. But the other thing,
except Kellyanne and Stephen Miller,
his hatred of Obama and the fact that Obama gets under his skin so much. You know the Trump baby balloon?
Yes.
I say if you really want to drive Trump crazy at his rallies and all that, don't bring out the Trump baby. Just bring out Obama balloons. Just have Obama heads floating around. That would
like Adonis-like.
That would destroy him so much more than the Trump baby. Just
or
everywhere,
like 3,000 masks.
Everywhere he turned,
Obama
there was
Such
Obama's face. He would just snap. He would just lose it.
He would totally lose it.
Well, what's he got left to lose? Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting there. I'm telling you, I'm worried about the guy. I don't know that he's,
Please.
I as a human being, As a human being,
I am.
I'm with you,
I'm
Anna.
so
No.
past it.
No,
He's been.
I got nothing.
I got nothing.
Yeah, none. There's no
Sympathy?
sympathy,
Nah, got
empathy.
nothing.
No, I didn't say sympathy. Empathy, a little
No,
different.
no,
I have a
I
little
got-
empathy for it.
I got nothing.
Well, I wouldn't want to, gack out and go. I have empathy for that, but that's
look,
my fear.
The only thing that I find comfort in these days is watching him suffer. And he's suffering right now. I mean,
that he is.
All of the early morning Twitter rants, all of the nonsense about how this is a perfect call, he's panicking, and he has good reason to panic. I mean, he's pushing Senate Republicans to defend him on the substance of this impeachment investigation, and Senate Republicans are like, listen, no, this is super risky. We can't do that. We're gonna keep focusing on process. And look, the fact of the matter is Trump makes it increasingly difficult for them to support him or defend him on substance because he's the one who keeps saying things like, it was a perfect call. Here he is saying that it's a perfect call yet again.
Well, they can't defend the facts. They can't defend the law. I don't want to go so far. My worry is, I do have something left as far as empathy goes because of the position.
You're a far better person than that. I don't know how that's even possible.
Because I'm looking at I hope I'm looking at a bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, how do we get past this? There's gonna come a time when Donald Trump isn't president by his means, the means of nature, or the means of the Senate or the Electoral College or something. His time will end. How do we pick up the pieces afterwards? Because there are people that I know, there are millions of people who voted for him in 2016 and don't want to vote for him in 2020, but they're upset with the Democrats because they're talking about healthcare, and to those voters that want to find someone else to vote for, their healthcare is their gun.
Yeah.
And you want to take that away, and they ain't going to vote for you. I don't care if you tell them free tooth enamels and whatever you want to give them, that's not going to happen. So I'm worried about what goes, and I don't take pleasure in seeing this at all. I'm concerned for the republic, the future, and I have my first grandson. I'm worried about how he's gonna grow up.
Well,
what are we gonna do?
We were talking about it before the show, right? If this wasn't real, it would be hilarious.
Yes.
It would be hilarious. I mean, just in that statement when he said that, some would call it fraud, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm gonna say it is.
But maybe
it's like,
I
wait a minute, you just said.
But maybe I would.
That flirty way. He always does this weird flirty whisper voice. I wouldn't call it fraud,
yourself.
but maybe I would.
Right, you contradicted 2 sentences ago. Not even from morning to afternoon, and the tweets and all of that. If it wasn't real, it would be hilarious.
It's entertaining to watch.
What you're saying,
I'll give you
I
that,
could not sell this fiction.
What you're saying is what happens? Do we look back? Well, it depends on which country we are. Because if we go back to the country we were before Trump, we'll look back at it and say, man, this was a horrible mistake, never do it again. But there is that risk that you talk about, that this is the new normal. And we just purely
I
become,
think Trump has
I've said it
desensitized
before,
the
we are
American
Canada's,
voters to the kind of nonsense that we're seeing in the White House, and that terrifies me.
He's not an aberration of the system by any measure. He is the culmination of it. I mean, he is a symptom of the problem that has existed for a while.
Absolutely.
We're a reality show.
Yeah.
We unfortunately, I've joked about it all the time, we're Canada's favorite reality show. They look over the border and they're like, what are they doing now?
Look what our dumb
What are they doing? They
toothless guys.
They legalized marijuana so they could all get high and watch us. They're like, oh, this show is gonna be good. How long is this on?
Well, we're smoking with them just to numb the pain. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we have more news for you, including Seth Meyers having the option, or giving you the option, of skipping his Trump jokes. Why? We'll give you that and more.
Now baby move that fat, baby move that fat. We thugged out.
What's J&A?
Ja'Cory and Arthur.
You guys share a mug?
Yeah, you both take our hot cocoa black.
That doesn't make any sense.
Plus, I'm right-handed and Arthur's left-handed, so our lips wouldn't even touch the same area. It's perfect.
No, I'm not left-handed.
What do you mean? I've seen you type with your left hand.
Yeah, and also with my right hand. That's how typing works.
democracy looks like.
When I think back to the debates in 2016, this was a very different party that was debating.
First time in my lifetime that I've actually had progressives represent us.
Bernie Sanders has changed the arithmetic.
This whole debate tonight was shaped by progressives.
We have to live our values every day in a campaign.
She came with receipts. That was her strongest moment by far.
This is going to be one of the best primaries we've ever seen.
This is what we've been saying would happen, and now it's playing out on the debate stage.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
We are onto something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you that say no corporate backed money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free health care for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer health care, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Justice Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a betting. Absolutely no.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats.
The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring. Hey guys, welcome back to TYT. We're gonna go right into our next story. And this has to do with Trump's border wall, which is proving to be a giant failure. Woohoo! Yes, I love it. All right, remember when Trump said that he was gonna build an impenetrable wall at our southern border? Well, it turns out that drug smugglers from Mexican cartels have easily found a way to use something called a reciprocating saw in order to saw through the steel and concrete slabs, and then they just simply kick the steel slab off to the side and make their way inside the country in order to smuggle drugs. Now, this is news that the Washington Post recently reported, but I just want to give you a little taste, a little reminder of what Trump has said about his own border wall over and over again.
If you think you're going to cut it with a blowtorch, that doesn't work because you hit concrete. And then if you think you're going to go through the concrete, that doesn't work because we have very powerful rebar inside. So it's a very powerful wall, the likes of which probably to this extent has not been built before. I did all three. Because it's a different form of cutting. You can cut through steel, but you can't through the concrete, and then you can't through the hardened rebar. We got it all. I said, fellas, how about doing a less expensive version? They said, well, this is the version that works, including the poured concrete in the steel with the rebar and everything else. That's the Rolls-Royce version. We're building a beautiful wall, a big one that really works, that you can't get over, you can't get under,
Any walls that were put up would get knocked down very quickly, very easily. This wall is not something that can be really knocked down. You'll see it's a combination of steel, concrete, and as one of the folks just said, it really is virtually impenetrable.
So the Washington Post reports that the breaches have been made using a popular cordless household tool known as a reciprocating saw that retails at hardware stores for as little as $100. When fitted with specialized blades, the saws can slice through one of the barrier's steel and concrete bollards in minutes, according to the agents. Border Patrol agents spoke to the Washington Post on condition of anonymity. And so this is what's going on. But when Donald Trump was, approached about some of the flaws that this wall has, here's how he reacted.
I haven't heard that. We have a very powerful wall, but no matter how powerful, you can cut through anything.
I love how he's backing up as he's answering that question. Like, I haven't heard anything about that, or see you later. Jeez.
Oh, good heavens. I've covered the border for 35 years. This was never going to work. It can't work. It won't work. And I love the part where he said you can't go under the wall. Oh, is it how deep is it?
Right.
Well, it's 5 feet deep. There are drug tunnels that have been caught over. I stood in one, did a stand up in one. It was like a 2-lane highway. They're moving drugs and people back and forth. It was never going to work. This was, remember, he came up with this. He pulled this one out of his, nether regions on a campaign trail and just said, and I'll make Mexico pay for it.
Right.
And none of this was ever real. I recently went down to the border, and you know what Border Patrolmen really want? They want money. Yeah. He promised, the other part that he promised was thousands of new Border Patrol agents. He has fewer Border Patrol agents because Border Patrol agents are limited in the amount of overtime that they can be paid. The ICE and the customs officials aren't. So Border Patrolmen stay for about 2 years and then leave to go to the higher paying jobs. They see a wall being built and they go, I'd like to put food on my plate. I don't mind working, but how about you take care of us first?
That's really interesting, because when I was debating Tomi Lahren at Politicon, she said that she spoke to Border Patrol agents and they told her that what they really want is a barrier.
Yeah, no, that's not true. I mean, maybe she talked to 1 or 2 guys that are in Trump's pocket, but most of the Border Patrol agents are they're good people. But if you've ever gone to the border, how long do you have to wait to cross? Because there aren't enough Border Patrolmen working the border crossings.
Right.
It's just not right.
Now, if you go further into this article, Anna,
God bless you if you do.
They also talk about that they've got ladders and climbed over. And I said this when they first built the wall, that I'm pretty confident the Mexican people have mastered ladder technology.
Yeah, dude,
I think they got that down, that it's tall, we'll climb a ladder. And now what I love is, you know what they're doing? They're sneaking into San Diego. They're bringing drugs? No, they're buying saws. They come, the price is really good. Apparently Lowe's had a sale on saws, so we went in and we bought it. This is so, it's one of these things. If it wasn't real, it would be hilarious, right?
Well,
There's just,
yes,
we're gonna build a wall. It's impenetrable unless you have a saw.
Well, anything's penetrable. And they come back and then it's penetrable. I gotta quickly tell you the funniest story. I was on the border. This is the waterfront Laredo, the water plant. The water is maybe waist deep. And back in the day when there was a crisis in the 80s, it would be like, rush hour traffic on the 101. I mean, it would be stacked up, people coming across, and the Border Patrol couldn't get them because they walk across and then disappear into the reed zone. Boom, they'd be gone. Well, I went back to this area that I used to frequent. I waited for 6 hours. One guy was crossing, and I asked him, I said, ¿Por qué cruzaste el río? Why are you crossing the river? And he goes, why are you talking to me in Spanish? And I go, because you're coming from Mexico. And he says, I'm coming across to work in my cousin's machine shop. I go, what, you live in Nuevo Laredo and you work in Laredo? He goes, yeah. And I go, why don't you cross at the bridge? He goes, I saved myself $1.25. I said, so Trump says he's gonna build a wall here. What happens if he builds a wall? When he looks up the river, he looks down the river.
I'm gonna buy a reciprocating saw.
He looks at me, he goes, I'm gonna be late for work.
That's hilarious.
That's the issue.
Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous. I did the same thing where I was in, I think, I can't remember the town, but Mexicali was right across the border, and there was literally a hole there, and that's how they came to work. They would just go through, and then they go back home, and it's.
And if you want to attack that issue, how about you go after the large companies who are hiring these illegal immigrants?
No, never.
That's
never.
the issue.
Because that would be real.
Well, he's one of the employers who hires undocumented immigrants. I mean, that's part of the thing. And when no one ever talks about this, and it drives me crazy. When Trump first got elected, what is the first thing that he did in 2017? He raised the cap on foreign workers who can come into the country and work on Trump properties.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So, while he is lowering the cap for refugees, he has increased the numbers of low-wage foreign workers who come in, and he gets to exploit and take advantage of. So, I mean, he's been taking advantage of undocumented labor in this country since
he came, since he was, yeah.
I'm giving away reciprocating saws for Christmas this year. I'm gonna go to the Home Depot. They're gonna be like, we're all out of them. We don't know what happened.
Rush on them.
All right, well, let's have a little fun and talk about Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers has a comedy special coming out on Netflix soon. It's called Lobby Baby, and it will allow viewers to skip portions of the special, specifically portions where he jokes about Donald Trump. So there will be a segment in which Meyers shifts from jokes about his personal life to punchlines about President Trump. Meyers told CNN Business that he asked Netflix to create a button for viewers to opt out of watching that segment in the same way Netflix users can bypass the introduction credits with the skip intro button at the top of some of its programs. So he says that, this isn't meant to be serious. He's doing this as a joke. I don't know if I'm buying that. I think he's really doing this so people don't get offended by Trump jokes.
Well,
because as much as the right wants to say that, these leftists, they want to police comedy, they're too sensitive, they're snowflakes. Let's be honest, everyone's a snowflake. Everyone gets, super sensitive about their preferred political candidate. And so, yeah, I think this is just a way of, in my opinion, I don't know, I could be wrong. This is his way of kind of like catering to some on the right.
My question is, how long's the special if you punch the button? 30 seconds? I mean, what's comedy if you're not offending somebody?
Right.
Anna, I have
comedian?
I have to disagree with you. And as someone who's out there in the comedy clubs, no. The Trump supporters are the real snowflakes and the crybabies, and they cannot take one joke. No, really. I mean, I've done jokes on all of them, right? Because I always call the primaries, this is a reality show when there's 15 candidates and stuff, and the Democrats, you can make, I made fun of Bernie, I made fun of Hillary and all. They'll laugh about it, they might not agree with it, they'll laugh. Trump people get angry when you make fun of Trump. There'll be a few that I don't agree with you, but it's funny, but they get angry. And they don't go to comedy shows. See, this is the other thing. These people are too angry to laugh. They don't go to comedy shows. Now, what Seth Meyers is doing here, and I saw Michelle Wolf a couple of weeks ago. I was in New York, and we were talking about it, and I'm in the same boat. We're tired of doing Trump jokes because there's nothing new. Like, what did we just watch? He argued with himself in the same statement, or he made this ridiculous, this wall is impenetrable. Oh, they can cut through anything. So from a comedian's point of view, you get tired of doing it because it's like the same thing. Yeah, it's low-hanging fruit, it's easy. Now, in his show, Seth Meyers has to do this, right? He has to cover it in the news. So I kind of get what he's doing here, whether it's real or not real. If you're a Trump supporter, you're not gonna watch a Seth Meyers special, even if you could bypass every Trump joke, which, like you said, will leave you 18 seconds. But the minute you see the name Seth Meyers, you're not gonna watch it. So
what do Trump supporters watch other than Fox and all that stuff?
I'm sorry, that was a joke.
There are some conservative comedians, and I know a couple of them.
Surprising. No, I know.
No, they're making a fortune.
Yeah.
They're making a fortune because that audience will only go see them. That's what they laugh at. And then, as you get more extreme, you get into the more horrible, the racist, homophobic, directly insulting comedians. But as professional comedians, there are some right-wing comedians that have a big following and they make big money. 2 years ago in Montreal, there was this guy, a Southern touring comedian, who attacked all the other comedians for doing political stuff, for doing pro-gay stuff. And then they wasn't even pro-gay. It was like treating gay people as human to them is somehow wrong.
Yeah, we gotta punch down.
So
that's their Christian nature.
So he attacked all these other comics, right? And he was literally run out of town. Like the festival was like, no, we don't endorse. Well, to his followers, that is great. Now, look, he was in a foreign country attacked by liberal comics. So to him, that's the best thing in the world that could happen. Right now, he's got 1 million more YouTube followers because they're like, see how they treat me, So it's
a lot of that's ginned up, my brother. I tell you what, I've been to the rallies. I've seen this too often where it's created. It's not spontaneous. It's not real. And to your point, as we were talking earlier, the scary part about all this is, are we becoming a country that cannot delineate between what is real and what isn't?
Yeah, I mean, we've been there though.
We can't because and this is the internet is like
that's
the
gone
greatest.
Far afield of where you were.
But the internet is the greatest and the worst thing that we have, right? Because no matter what your ridiculous belief, you can find it on the internet and use that as credibility. And one of the things one of my personal things that I talk about that I can't stand, like, internet followers somehow give you credibility. So you're a White House reporter, you're at the White House every day, you're in the press pool, and then someone will sit over here, well, I got 2 million followers, and they'll treat you like you're equal.
I know, and the scary part about that is you sit there, to me, it's equal to this analogy is, I'm sitting in the front row 5 feet away, and you're 3 miles away, and you're telling me what it is I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating to me. And when people assume that you have a bent or that you have a bias based on what you're saying, look, if he was doing great, I'd tell you he's doing great, but he ain't doing great. And so you can either listen to what someone is saying who's there seeing it, or you can already go in with your preconceived notion, and that's what people are doing, and it's frightening.
And the other thing, even when he
they can't laugh.
Even when he does great, he ruins it, right? So you get the head of ISIS, you get like the most wanted terrorist, but then you still ruin it. Like you couldn't just leave it at that. Now he has to be
any credit
he
for
has
it,
to be whimpering and this and that and the other.
Right.
So now you even like you had a win. Like a friend of mine, he's a businessman. He says, you got to learn to take yes for an answer.
That's right.
You had a win. Stop. Don't say another word. We got the head of ISIS.
That's true, but that's the Democrats. The Democrats should let him continue to shoot himself in the foot until he hits
a more. They've done a good job at that, though, don't you think?
No, I don't. I think no. I don't think they. I don't think they have either. Well, first of all, I would just say let him continue to shoot himself in the foot until he hits himself in a vital area. And it's going to happen. But the Democratic, the Democratic candidates all line up, and I'm sorry, but you're not going to win Trump voters by telling me you want to tax the churches. You're not going to get a lot of African American voters either.
Yeah,
because
but
churches
I don't think they
popular.
should try to pander to Trump voters. I think Trump voters are a lost cause.
I don't think they should pander to Trump voters. They should strike a unifying chord for those of us. Most people that I find are not from the far left or far right. They're somewhere in the middle.
That's been ignored by, and that's what Trump tapped into in the last election. He pretended as though he was some sort of economic populist, and that did.
That's not why he won.
It's part of why he won.
And Democrats still don't know why he won. Let me tell you what Democrats don't understand is the voters that voted for Trump that won't vote for him this time, if but for the fact there was somebody a little less weird than him, and that's all they want. Is one of the things that appealed to them was that he called himself the blue collar billionaire, and somewhere sitting in their small, your home is your castle, they saw that and they go, gee, golly, I can be like that myself someday.
Oh yeah, they fell for that.
That was what they fell for.
They fell for the self-made line,
yes,
as if he didn't inherit money. Now, to your point, one thing you said earlier, Anna, which is really true, the Democrats need to stop letting Trump set the agenda.
Agreed.
Stop letting him set the narrative. That's one thing. The other thing is they have to come together. There's, like you were talking about, there are Republicans who can't stand Trump, but he's a Republican. So they just, you know what I mean? They get on board just so we got to get a Republican in power. And I know, I call them reasonable Republicans, people I know who are Republican, like they run a business and they want low taxes or employers. So
but where are those people? Because if you look at Trump's approval rating, if you look at his approval rating, he's doing well when it comes to Republican voters.
Well, there's also
but they're a minority. Every time he says 95% of the Republican Party are for me, well, what does that mean? First of all, the majority of the people aren't Republicans.
Yeah.
And secondly, not a majority of the people vote. What he really means is that this small group of people who always turn out to vote and like the Republican platform see that I'm the only choice that they have. He said it in one of his rallies. You may not like me, but you'll vote for me. And the Democrats have got to figure out a way. The Republicans are, I got news for you. If he isn't impeached and removed from office, he's gonna run, and the Republicans who don't like him. I mean, I've talked to senators. I can't find anybody who actually likes the guy. No one would invite him over to their house for a barbecue.
Yeah.
But they're gonna hold their nose and vote for him, and the Democrats are gonna shoot each other trying to find a perfect candidate they'll never find.
You know, the ultimate example of that would be Ted Cruz, right? Where he literally insulted your wife and your family, and you're still like,
no, but
he's good.
Yeah,
I'm
with him.
You know,
there are silver linings to this presidency, and the way that he has. I have to use this word.
Would you say it's a silver linings playbook?
It is. He has cucked these Republican senators, and it's been fascinating to watch. I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, the Democrats, they need that. What you were saying.
She'd be a mean football player. I'm telling you.
You don't mess with Anna. You don't mess
You'd
with
be
Anna.
a middle linebacker.
Don't mess with Anna on any level. That's why you're in the middle. That's why I'm sitting over here. I don't want no trouble.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's a
I've been around this woman before. I know who I'm talking to. But no, to your point, yes, the Democrats need that candidate that those people who are not progressive, the people who are in the middle, the people who they're like, I just want to be able to vote for this person without, you know what I mean? I don't want the crazy. Now, you know, they may be afraid of the progressive, but they don't want the crazy. They're looking for someone in between.
But I feel like there's a lot of candidates on the Democratic side that try to represent that message.
I feel like
you have Klobuchar, who's not doing well. You have Buttigieg, who's surging at the moment, but he's not doing well with, you know.
I hate to say this, but Buttigieg is gay.
Well, I think he knows it. You're not.
No, what I'm saying is, you think America's going to vote for a gay candidate? Like you're done. You're done. It's you know that's what we're talking about.
But
These are the
then
things.
You have Joe Biden, who's still doing, I guess,
doddering. I think he's sundowning.
I agree, and that's his own doing because he can't, you know, keep it together during debates, or even when he gets, you know, a question while he's out on, you know, out campaigning.
I think when I watch these debates, and I've been to 3 of them now, when I've gone there, I just get the impression that I'm watching a really great cabinet debate.
Right.
I can see, you know, like Klobuchar, Secretary of State, Kamala Harris, she could be a great AG. Buttigieg, Andrew Yang would make a great Commerce Secretary. But where is the person standing up going, well, who's got the charisma?
We need
and
the
is a little less crazy.
We need the Franken candidate.
I think that person exists.
You need to put together a candidate who has
Well, you're going to disagree with me, and I don't want to get into a debate, but I think Bernie Sanders is a great candidate who actually does have the ability to somehow miraculously convince some of these Trump voters that he's a better candidate.
He's already had a heart attack.
It doesn't matter.
You have his age,
if he dies,
and the other thing, Anna. The other thing, again, Anna, and I'm telling you from someone who travels all over the country, this and that. You know, the word socialist scares the hell out of people. Like
they don't even know what it means, and it scares
I was just in
then they
Richmond,
better reject their Social Security and Medicare benefits if they're so afraid of social.
But he's talking about emotion, and you're talking about logic.
I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the name calling.
And that's a failure, I think, of the media as well.
But
that Americans
are this. American education.
That's true. American education has failed.
Home.
I'm talking about the name calling. I was just in Richmond, Virginia, and there was a candidate, and I'm not even sure what, I don't remember what exactly she was running for, but the whole ad was, she's a socialist just like AOC from New York. See, that's the, exactly. That was the most evil thing in the world to be, you know what I mean? So and that's the thing again, that's one of the big marks.
If you want to talk reality,
Bernie.
We have, you're right. It is one of the big marks against Bernie, but to your point, we already have socialism in the United States.
Absolutely we do. What she
Socialism exists, I tell you what, for the upper 1%.
Yes.
Man, you ain't failing.
Yes.
Capitalism exists for the rest of us trying to kill each other.
You better believe there's some entitlement in that 1%.
Exactly.
I'm
a lot of
entitled
old
to be
white
in the
guys.
1%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to leave it there so we can transition over to hour 2. But thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure having you, and Alonzo, as always.
Anna, thank you.
Remember
it
that
was
album
it was so much fun, and yeah.
All right.
It was a joy.
Now I get crucified. Whenever I come on the Turks, I'll say something that they consider anti-Bernie, and they just attack me.
Yeah.
So I'm in trouble
Get ready
now.
for that.
And if they listen
I always
to me,
get attacked.
I know. All right, stick around. J.R. Jackson and Brooke Thomas join me for hour 2.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not going to want to lose, and he's going to run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Cenk has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
No, but
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? And they're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Idarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal. We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Fourth day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better. Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate, I gotta be honest, you know what we do, we cover it for real. For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections.
And when he told the cops that day when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian, Brooke Thomas, and JR Jackson with you.
We never get to do this.
I know, it's been a long time. So there's the upside of, I don't even know what he's up to.
I was just thinking, what is he up to?
I found out he's gonna be gone. He'll be back on Thursday.
Yes.
But I found out on Friday, I'm like, where are you going? He's like, New York. And he's very sparse on the
All
details.
that means is I get a parking space.
All right, I want to read a few member comments before we move on to the rest of the rundown. Pixie Hack says, oh, Anna makes me smile saying watching Cinnamon Stalin suffer is her only joy in these dark days. It's not my only joy, but when it comes to Trump, it is my only joy. Like watching him, because you can tell when he's miserable.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Cray Cray Souffle writes in and says, loving Brian Karem on the panel today. The only White House reporter to ever come close to making Sarah Sanders break into a million pieces on live TV. Keep on keeping on. He's also the White House reporter who got into a little bit of a scuffle with Sebastian Gorka.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Represent.
Hangry Skywalker says, I love it when Anna admits her pettiness because I know I'm not alone.
You're human.
We're all petty to some
I think
degree,
so,
right?
Yeah.
Look, especially when it comes to someone like Donald Trump. Like, he's a terrible person. So like, I don't understand anyone having any type of sympathy for him.
Yeah.
Like, people have died in cages. Children have died in cages under his watch.
It's not even petty. It's just returning the energy.
Totally,
it's
yeah.
that
And
old
it's not
saying.
even equal return.
Yeah. Honestly,
just-
it's just
true.
why F with somebody who's like that. That's one of those situations. You give out the energy, you're gonna get that same back, and it's not my fault.
I agree.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some more legal trouble that Donald Trump's facing. A federal appeals court has ruled that Donald Trump must hand over his taxes to prosecutors in Manhattan. Now remember, his tax returns are desired not only by federal investigators, members of Congress, but also by a local grand jury in Manhattan. Trump has been fighting against this over and over again. The case is likely to make it to the Supreme Court, but let me give you the details on what an appeals court has recently ruled. A 3-judge panel of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously ruled that the president is not immune from investigative steps taken by state prosecutors, such as a grand jury subpoena. The appeals court dismissed concerns Trump's lawyers raised about the potential state prosecution of a president while in office. Second Circuit Chief Judge Robert Katzman said the current case did not present that question, and he stressed that the records don't pertain to Trump's official duties. So look, the case that Trump's lawyers are making is, no, look, he's president, he's busy. This is really gonna interfere with his official duties as president. But the appeals court is essentially saying, no, it's not. He doesn't have to do a thing. All that needs to happen is the financial firm that has his taxes needs to hand them over, and then we're done with it. But of course, Trump is fighting tooth and nail to keep his taxes secret, which, look, why?
Right, that is what's so fascinating about this to me is at this point, we have seen so much of his dirty laundry aired. So much, there's so many things that he's done and said, so many things he's been investigated for, so many like secrets that have popped up that look so bad and that make him look so bad, and his base is strong as ever. They're like, whatever. And what is in these? At first, I just thought he was a cheat. Like, he just was gonna like his taxes being exposed, we're gonna push back against his all-American, I care about this country, I would do anything for this country. But we're so far beyond that being his truth that what is he trying to hide?
Yeah,
it's one of those situations where he starts off, I think, of course, we're speculating now. It starts off by wanting to hide whatever embarrassing information it was. Could it be from where he even admitted when he was running that, yeah, sure, I make sure I pay the least amount of taxes as possible. And then we see the embarrassing amount that he pays after he talks about, and we see how much everyone else has to pay. From that point, then on to the Stormy Daniels payments, all those things would come out, which if we actually get a chance to see them, it's not gonna be surprising because it's exactly what we were thinking. But because he didn't want those few things to come out, it's now getting stretched out so much. You're like, man, they're going through painstaking distances to make sure this doesn't happen. And it's simply because he doesn't want it to. It doesn't mean that the things have gotten worse. It just means now that he's in the fight, he can't stop it now because he's just like that.
About losing.
Yeah, he's a bull.
Yeah.
He's bullheaded. It doesn't matter. Now it's just like I gotta keep those few things from coming out, and now it seems so much more heightened because of how long we've been trying to get these things we already know about.
Yeah, yes, I think him wanting to win is part of it, But I think that remember, there's already been some analysis done on his New York state taxes. ProPublica managed to get a hold of them, and they found that he was purposely deflating his assets to avoid paying the appropriate amount of taxes. So I think that there is potential criminality there that he's trying to cover up. There's a big question about the type of financial deals he has with foreign governments, including Russia. And I also think that it's true he's not really as rich as he says that he is, and I think he's embarrassed by that fact.
Straight embarrassment.
All of this is so small. This is so sad that this is our president.
I know, it is really sad. So I want to read a few portions of what Chief Judge Robert Katzman wrote. He says, after reviewing historical and legal precedent, we conclude that presidential immunity does not bar the enforcement of a state grand jury subpoena directing a third party to produce non-privileged material, even when the subject matter under investigation pertains to the president. The president has not persuasively explained why, if executive privilege did not preclude enforcement of the subpoena issued in Nixon, the Mazars subpoena, and Mazars is the financial firm, must be enjoyed despite seeking no privileged information and bearing no relation to the president's performance of his official functions. So here you have the Chief Judge Katzman arguing, look, if you look at precedent and if you look at what was subpoenaed during the Nixon administration, what's happening now is something that there is precedent for. It is not interfering with the president's official duties. And more importantly, this is not privileged information. This is not information that's gonna be blocked from any type of subpoena. So look, Trump is gonna continue fighting this. This is likely to go to the Supreme Court. Very curious to see how the Supreme Court rules on this, considering how Trump has stacked the court in his favor.
When it comes to things like courts, you can. Yeah, that's the part we don't talk about, right? I didn't even think about that part.
Caring about, if you care about the country so much that, but this is not in the first way that he's wasted money. So
it doesn't. It's other people that are wasting money that we're concerned about all the time. But this signals for this came forward because Jay Sekulow was saying how it's going to go to the Supreme Court. So of course Kavanaugh came in, Gorsuch came in under Trump. So his thought, because he always talks about how courts. Remember there was the Latino heritage judge that he said, oh yeah, he's gonna rule against me just because of who he is. That's how he thinks his justices are supposed to rule in his favor. So he's like, I got the Supreme Court. In his mind, I've got the Supreme Court. I put two of these guys in. I defended Kavanaugh vigorously against all the charges against him. So he owes me. You know how he thinks with the loyalty and they owe me. So he's like, I got this in the bag. Let's just keep pushing this to the Supreme Court because that's my court, because that's how this guy thinks. And so once we get there, we're gonna win. That's his only thought process is keep going to the Supreme Court, but they have a little bit of a parameter to get there. And once they do, he thinks he's got it done.
You know, it is kind of incredible that with all the leaks that are happening from within the White House, and just all the leaks in general during this administration, the one thing that has not leaked are his tax returns.
Right, oh my goodness.
It is, I mean, in a lot of ways, he's been so lucky. And I mean, we'll see how this plays out, but I'm very curious what's in those tax returns. All right, we gotta take a quick break. When we come back, we will discuss the fires in California and the heartless POS that Donald Trump is in response to those fires.
People work hard for what they have, and if you want more, you gotta do it yourself.
Stock stories bring headlines to life in an instant, whether you work on Wall Street or in Wichita. Stock report cards and professional analyst buy and sell ratings help gut check your thought process. Buy stock, take profits, and manage risk. And the Idea Feed is your daily one-stop investment shop with videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes, because you need ideas, not lectures. And live in-app chat from when you want to talk to someone, but you don't actually want to talk.
So what'd you think?
With unlimited commission-free stock trades and great ideas from real traders. Visit doe.com/TYT.
People still don't know what the word feminist actually means. Not even that, people are still angered by the word.
People think feminist is a bad word, but it's not.
There are gradations, there are different waves. The people who are against gender equality love to use like militant feminists as the representatives of all feminists. It's untrue.
I don't know why you'd be threatened by strong women unless you were an incredibly weak man. If you don't have equal rights, or you're not treated the same way, well, wouldn't you be angry?
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Cenk Uygur is not here today, which means that I will be able to talk during the show.
We'll see. We'll see.
Poor Cenk, under the bus.
My God, if Jesus came back, how much would the Republicans hate him? So now you have to give away all of your possessions to the poor. Steve King would be like, oh, Weezy.
Cenk is oddly, scarily competitive.
Oh, it's insane. I play basketball against him. It's just like, how are you good at this?
The liberal mom says, Mark Thompson, have you ever thought about doing one of those tapes that soothe people to sleep? Like Mark Thompson reads the phone book. I'd buy it.
If you'll buy it, I'll do it.
D'Amelio writes in, John, you are so thick. I love you. That's what he wrote.
Pork Chop Express writes in and says John Idarola needs a new jacket.
Whoa.
Those 24-inch pythons are about to burst out of his sleeve.
Gun, baby. You know, the two people here said that their moms were both in love with you over Beauty and the Beast.
That's an improvement. I usually get grandmothers.
The Hour of Fire is brought to you by Brooke, and Brooke.
Yes, Brooke's got it.
Okay.
Take it.
All
you
right.
guys know I really like compliments.
Charlie Turk.
No, wait a minute, don't you dare.
Chemical castration when we return from the break.
All right, so that's it. We will settle it.
I want to see this.
Did Anna comment on my tan yet? No, she hasn't. Scandal at TYT.
You're a good bosser.
But Anna did say that I come in here today with a fresh mind. That's all I'm about. I'm about a fresh mind.
I can't with you right now. Okay?
She just can't. She can't, but nonetheless, we have to for another 3 hours. I'm back, baby. Let's rip in the Republicans. See, don't miss the live show.
That's great.
Tell people, if you're a member, you get the whole live show whenever you want, because this stuff doesn't go into any of the clips.
Hey guys, welcome back to TYT. Just one TYT live. Santos Wante says, why has the Young Turks not covered the most pressing story circling Twitter today? Boomers versus millennials.
Oh, gosh.
Actually, Santos, we cover that every day. Just not explicitly, but the theme is there. All right, let's move on to fires in California. As wildfires continue to, As wildfires continue to ravage the state of California, Donald Trump has repeated the same nonsense that we saw from him in January of this year. He has decided to attack Governor Gavin Newsom for his lack of effort in cleaning up the forest floors. These attacks were made on Twitter. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has done a terrible job of forest management, which, by the way, the federal government is responsible for. I told him from the first day we met that he must clean his forest floors regardless of what his bosses, the environmentalists, demand of him, must also do burns and cut fire stoppers. Okay, so.
This is exhausting.
Okay, part of the problem, I mean, do I need to bother explaining this?
Go for it though.
Like, part of the problem, you idiot, is the fact that these privatized utilities haven't updated their equipment or their power grid, which has led to faulty equipment sparking fires in incredibly dry areas of California. And so you have these brush fires, these wildfires, it has nothing to do with a dirty forest floor.
Nothing at all.
I just want someone who's not an idiot at this point.
It takes cursory search about what's happening.
Yeah, there's so much. First of all, like not every fire that's happening in California is explicitly a forest fire. Also, the federal government is in control of a lot of our forests.
A lot of it, yep.
So threatening to take away aid for the parts of the state that you're not in control of, that doesn't seem to help.
Exactly.
If you care about the people here and not just some baseless political fight. And then also, the EPA under your control is doing a worse job than the government of California, which absolutely could be doing a better job. Absolutely, we could be working to figure this out a little bit, but it's not like California is not leading this.
I gotta say, there is legitimate criticism for Gavin Newsom because Gavin Newsom right now is trying to find ways to bail out these utility companies who have been incredibly irresponsible. They're more interested in padding their own pockets as opposed to using some of their profits to upgrade their equipment. So I think Gavin Newsom's absolutely wrong in trying to bail them out. These utilities shouldn't be privatized. This is what happens when you have privatized utilities like PG&E. But remember, Gavin Newsom was standing right next to Donald Trump last January when Trump tried to compare California to Finland, arguing that Finland has got it figured out. Take a look.
Got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem.
Okay, so that was stupid, and Gavin Newsom realized it, and I love this edit that JR did because he zooms in on Newsom's face. Take a look.
You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and
he was like, wait, you're gonna bash me? I'm standing right here.
It's one of those moments where like, what was this movie like? Not in the same scale, but I think it was the Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want. It's one of those opportunities where you're like, I want to read his mind right now and hear what he's saying. He's like, this guy, what did he just? I want to know everything was going through his mind in that moment because it would have been awesome. So Trump has a personality disorder. He's an egomaniac and probably 7 other things that an actual doctor could diagnose. But in those situations, those moments, he sees these things as an opportunity to promote himself and to bash someone who's ever opposed him. He remembers this stuff. He's like, that guy said something mean about me once. I hate him. So every opportunity he has that's connected to Gavin Newsom, he's gonna take as a way to promote himself. Oh, see, he did it wrong with the forest floor, and they should sweep it. So when you do that, it's only a way to promote himself and then bash Gavin Newsom because he was mean to me once. Also, the entire state of California somehow hates him. So in that realm, who cares if it's burning? Who cares if people's houses and lives are gone? It doesn't matter because it's about promoting myself. Remember, he threatened to take away funding for Puerto Rico during disaster, during the hurricanes, multiple hurricanes there, because the mayor of San Juan was mean to him. Oh, Puerto Rico, off the list, hate him, take away the funding. And then once the governor of Puerto Rico was on his side, oh yeah, we can help out Puerto Rico all we want. Then he flipped on him, now I hate Puerto Rico again. It's only based off of who's nice to him, who's my friends. That's how he operates.
And it is terrifying because he can make decisions about whether or not he should cut funding to certain disaster relief programs. He's threatened to cut FEMA funding for California wildfires before. He's doing it again in these recent attacks against Gavin Newsom. And everything he does is meant to either celebrate or applaud people who like him or retaliate against his opponents or his critics. And it's true of how he structured his tax legislation. It's incredibly retaliatory against high state tax states like California and New York. And oh wow, what a coincidence, these are blue states. I mean, it's just gross because he doesn't see Americans as Americans, but even worse, he doesn't see people as people unless they're on his side.
Absolutely.
He started his presidency like that. Sorry.
Can we go back, just taking the conversation back to that video and just how absolutely ridiculous it was. The best part about that whole situation was after that, the president of Finland was like, nah.
We don't rake our forest.
No idea what he's talking about. Like, do you remember?
I forgot about that part.
It's just embarrassing.
It is, yeah.
And it just doesn't end. All right, let's move on to our next story, some dirty politicians. All right, so a Democratic mayoral candidate in Topeka, Kansas has been targeted in a disgusting smear campaign that wrongly ties him to sexual assault. And he's actually suing as a result of this slander. His name is Brandon Whipple. And interestingly enough, this ad that's been pushed out not only wrongly ties him to sexual assault, the actual individual who was accused of doing these things was a Republican. So this is how Republicans play, right? Now, Brandon Whipple, the mayoral candidate who's been targeted, is a Democrat. And let me give you some more details on this ad. The ad used allegations and quotations from a 2017 story in the Kansas City Star and the Wichita Eagle, in which college-age female legislative interns complained about lewd comments and sexual harassment at the State House. In the story, a woman who served as a legislative intern in 2009 described an experience she had on the Senate floor with a Republican senator. Whipple is a Democrat who serves in the House. Neither the woman nor the senator are named in the story, okay? So I wanna give you a quote from the story that was not against Whipple, but it was a similar theme that was used in the attack ad against him. So the woman says, he just came up, she said in the 2017 story, and it was just like a very passing comment. Like he looked at me, he smiled, he said, hey, do your panties match your outfit? And then winked and then walked on by. And so it goes on. So it gives you a sense of how gross these allegations are. But to tie those allegations to someone who's completely innocent just to destroy his chances in this mayoral race just gives you a sense of how dirty some Republican politicians are willing to play.
Remember when Kavanaugh was going through his whole situation when he was getting confirmed? I know I brought this up before. And then I can't remember exactly the Republican who said, hey, when you guys have a nominee come up, we're gonna just smear them and throw things at them. They're saying like this never happens, like they've never done it this way. This is the calling card of many folks. I'm not saying every Republican, every candidate that runs does this type of stuff, but this is the degrees you go to make sure to see if you can win something. Just, hey, we'll throw it out there, even though we know exactly what's happened, we know the actual the offenders in the situation, but we'll throw it out there and say it's them because we know enough people will believe it on our side. Number two, where was it posted? I looked it up and I clicked on it to see if I could find this video. It was supposed to be on Facebook where it was hosted until it got taken down.
Right.
Mark Zuckerberg goes in front of Congress and answers these questions and defiantly says, I'm gonna continue to allow lies to be posted on the site because it's just a politician, they never lie. He knows that already, but it's actually about the money. So you know who heard that? Lying politicians hear that and they go and do it. Elizabeth Warren tried to make a point, AOC tried to make a point and said, hey, what if we post things that are lying on your site? Except when they do it, they said, hey, you guys, this is a lie. Because many Democrats are way too honest when they try to make a point. Hey, just do it. Just make it happen and have them go ahead and deal with the results. Let's not post things. I was frustrated when Elizabeth Warren did that. She posted on Facebook and said, hey, you guys, this isn't a real ad. But if it were, it would be right in line with Zuckerberg's policy. No, don't do that. Just hit him.
Yeah, well, okay, so this is a similar point that I made when I was debating Cenk on the topic. Because Twitter and Facebook have approached these slanderous ads in very different ways. Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook doesn't want to police any of it, so he'll allow those lies in these political ads without policing. And then Twitter is like, we don't want to deal with it, we're just gonna ban political ads, period, right? So look, neither option is great, but if I had to choose, I would go the Twitter route because allowing these types of defamatory videos to just like spread all over a social media platform is so disastrous, right? You feel like you have no way of fighting back. But Cenk disagrees. He thinks that it really does hinder or hurt, let's say, someone who wants to primary an incumbent, right? Maybe a progressive candidate, whatever it is. But progressives aren't gonna play dirty like this, right? Like I mentioned, this is the type of system that's gonna be exploited by bad actors. And most of those bad actors, whether Republicans wanna believe it or not, are on the right. You're not gonna have someone on the left, play these dirty games, and I'm glad. I don't want them to play
because
those
many of their
dirty
supporters would be against it. It's again, it's exactly the way they approach. If the cops come out and have a press conference and say, yeah, the First Federal Bank was robbed this morning, we're not gonna do much about it. The next criminal is gonna say, oh, that bank is wide open for business.
Right.
Somebody who is not a criminal will become a criminal because of that announcement. Like, what? Yeah.
It's so true. So this is terrible stuff. Luckily, Facebook has taken the ad down and Whipple is launching a lawsuit. But what was fascinating is the actress who was hired for the ad had no idea what was going on. That's what she claims. She says that she was under the impression that she was shooting a PSA in regard to sexual harassment. And she says, knowing that it's a lie now, I just feel terrible. All I want to do is like hug the people that I've tarred in this whole thing and just apologize because I had no idea. And her quote goes on and on. This dude, Whipple, has a family, he has kids, a wife. And Whipple came out and said, this is what they do. This is what they do. They don't like my politics, so they're gonna go ahead and resort to these disgusting
Again,
smears.
it's a no-name guy who put it together. They tracked him down. He was in the office of other Republicans that worked there. They don't know anything about him, of course. But they don't care that a no-name gets caught. There's a bunch of, you can come up as collateral damage as long as you help the cause. So you can get probably arrested, sued, lawsuits, everything can go against this guy. But it's okay, because a certain percentage of this lie is gonna stick.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's certain people who watch that ad on Facebook and come election day, they're gonna be like, yeah, Whipples, that's that guy who raped those girls. And it's gonna stick to a certain degree, and that's all they needed.
And even if an ad can't be put out anywhere else, there is still value for a local race, a small city local race, putting this on Facebook.
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg is like, yeah, sure, do it. I'm down for the First Amendment for everything, unless it's a movie being made about me.
Right, right, yes, exactly.
Then it's like, lock that up.
All right, we gotta take our final break. When we return, we're gonna talk about white on white crime.
Oh my God.
And it involves Richard Spencer and Milo Yiannopoulos.
Where are the fathers?
These thugs.
Trump has already launched Trump TV. In fact, they recently did a weather report. So why don't we go to the Trump Weather Channel and see what they have to say about this story.
This is Brett Ehrlich reporting live on Hurricane Dorian as the storm bears down here in Mobile, Alabama. And as you can see, the weather is actually pretty nice. We need to fix this shot. We need to make it seem like there's more of a hurricane. Okay, actually, let's go to some video of a hurricane. Oh God, that's what a hurricane would look like if one was here. And that's scary, isn't it? And actually, if you listen really close, you can hear the wind. Real natural debris. And I'm not even sure how the people here in Mobile will cope with the cleanup afterwards. So we're just really waiting we gotta get out of the shot. We gotta get out of the shot with bated breath to see what will happen. And ow, okay, all right, okay. That's back to you guys, back to you in the studio. All right. Mr. President, I can't fake rain. What do you mean use a Sharpie? As you can see, the rain is coming down in buckets. The rain's coming down all over the place, and there is no quarter. There is no quarter, no place to hide. I quit. I just quit.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup. You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Damage Report, another week of the news. I am John Idarola, and we've got a doozy of a show for you. My God, is DC up its own ass today. We have put someone into power in our country who is so crazy, they have finally out-crazied North Korea.
The US is the only country in the world that isn't part of the Paris Climate Accord.
Yesterday, Donald Trump did exactly what he told us. He pulled the US out of the Iran nuclear accords.
People call the police on black people. People are fearful of black humans. There is no more to the story than racism.
I was gonna say we've been dealing with the issue of lead poisoning in this country, but that would imply that we're really doing something. We have an issue with lead poisoning and it continues. So 60 people are now dead. Some of them grandmothers, many of them children. The silence of politicians on both sides of the aisle. Just about only Bernie Sanders, maybe Tulsi Gabbard, and a few others have actually been critical of what happened there. And the rest are cowards hiding behind silence, refusing to admit what happened yesterday.
We have to be able to accept that we do things wrong in this country. You can fix and change things, make things even.
What's great about our country, and this is a great example of it, is everybody's pissed off. This is a damage report, and it's all about the threats facing us each day. When something's relevant, and it's hot, and it's in the news, you're not supposed to talk about it. Can we start talking about it now? Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Welcome back to TYT. I want to read a few TYT Lives and member comments. First, member comments from I'm an Angry Gumball.
Okay.
Good job, JR. Also, I'm pretty sure that Trump's mind just plays a constant stream of elevator music. I don't know what he's saying good job or she's saying good job too. Serial bunglers are people too, says, my favorite part of that story was all the social media posts with pictures of Finns pretending to hover the forest floor.
Yeah.
Oh, Hoover the forest floor.
Oh yeah.
And then finally, a few TYT Lives. Eddie O'Donnell says, proving still he's a child. I'm guessing that's about Donald Trump. Rita Ann writes in and says, Trump punishing Americans from blue areas started with Sarah Palin and her real Americans rhetoric.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot she even did that. Wow.
Can you imagine?
We did not deserve that. Let me just tell you, we did not deserve that.
That's, I mean,
Sarah Palin?
Those times
seemed
almost
the introduction.
It was so bad, though.
I know.
It opened the door.
It did, but like, part of the reason why McCain didn't get elected was because of her. Like, the country had some level of sanity back then, you know?
The difference was she was unknown before that. Trump was known before his lunacy became forefront in politics.
By the way, don't
So
underestimate.
it was a popularity thing.
Don't underestimate like the years and years of free advertising that Trump got with The Apprentice. Like one day I was over a friend's house and we're like, wouldn't it be funny if we just watch a few episodes of The Apprentice? Like, and they make him out to be like a hero.
I watched that because I like reality. I like trash TV. You
Me too. Who doesn't?
Right, but that did not. I did not want that man to be president.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, you know.
It's incredible.
It should have worked in the opposite, but we're not there anymore. We're not. We're in the upside down, and we just have to live in it.
We got to fight it, but I hear you. All right, well, let's talk about terrible people doing terrible things, although this is kind of amusing. So, there is now leaked audio that purports to catch white supremacist Richard Spencer in the middle of a racist tirade, which isn't so surprising. I mean, I would imagine he goes on racist tirades on a regular basis. But the person who leaked the audio was a one-time friend, Milo Yiannopoulos. Now, just to give you context into the rant you're about to hear, it was following the hate protest in Charlottesville, Virginia, where white supremacists were marching with tiki torches, chanting things like "the Jews will not replace us." There were counter protesters there, and as we all know, Heather Heyer, one of the counter protesters, was run over by a white supremacist, and she died as a result. Now, after that, understandably, Charlottesville, Virginia would want to have some restrictions on the types of demonstrations that are allowed. And Richard Spencer was very upset about that. And you're about to hear just how upset in this next clip.
Coming back here like 100 times. I am so mad. I am so mad at these people. They don't do this to me. We're gonna ritualistically humiliate them. I am coming back here every weekend if I have to. Like, this is never over. No. I win, they lose. That's how the world works. They get ruled by people like me. My ancestors enslaved those pieces of. We're gonna win. I rule the world. Those pieces of get ruled by people like me. They look up and see a face like mine looking down at them. That's how the world works. We are gonna destroy this town.
There are so many racial slurs that there is like long bouts of silence. There are so many. We were learning new racial slurs out there, okay? As a group from this, like what?
Yeah, there were some words in there which I'm not gonna repeat that I had never even heard of,
And
right?
let me tell you this, David Duke did not walk, so you two could run and snitch on each other. Like, what is this movement?
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? What is this movement?
Maybe Milo had an awakening. Like, I mean, first of all, after hearing anyone engage in that type of rant, like, would you follow that guy?
No!
Right? Like, he's having like a full-blown meltdown, which makes it abundantly clear that he is so insecure, and he feels powerless because he is powerless, because he's trash, and he's angry and lashing out at everyone else. Someone died as a result of your hate protest, right? Your hate march. And he's more upset about not being able to carry out these hate marches in the future, as opposed to the fact that an innocent person who was simply counter-protesting was run over and killed.
And just that murder, it's so awful because not only did someone die, someone was killed, but like someone was so full of hate and rage that they actually drove their car through a crowd of people. Like that is, you know what I mean? Like that is, yeah.
If this gets confirmed or whoever way they can possibly do that, again, these are guys who wear red hats. This guy supports the president. This is the guy the president then said there's good people on both sides. The president was endorsing people like this. This was from Charlottesville that Trump said that after Heather Heyer was murdered. So when you get people that gonna confirm this type of folks, and then you say, hey, I don't know why every white supremacist happens to be a Republican supporter, you can no longer shake it. So as this comes out, the question then becomes, hey, do you guys support this kind of rhetoric? Because he supports you. Like you can't divorce the two. You guys have already endorsed each other. Now you have to answer for it. Or go ahead and denounce and reject. Get yourself away from it and tell us how many different ways you don't agree with him. Because he kind of halfway said, oh yeah, I don't really endorse white supremacists. I just say it in a roundabout way how they're okay because they have a reason to be mad.
Who, Trump?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the reason to be mad?
No, can I just say, the people who make excuses, because Donald Trump said, there's very fine people on both sides, And then people are like, no, he's not referring to the hate march. He's referring to people who were motivated to participate because they wanted to protect the Confederate statues. Yeah, none of those people are good people, okay? If you're one of those individuals who thinks that it makes sense to have Confederate statues on public land, yeah, you're part of the problem. I don't consider you good people, okay? And he defended them in the context of that hate march. So like, don't play this game of like, no, that's not what he meant. That is exactly what he meant. Absolutely. And he has said far worse following that hate march.
Yeah, that is exactly what he meant, and that's exactly what many of his actions over the past few decades have meant.
Yeah.
Long before he was president, like this is who he is. These are his people.
He allowed children, migrant children, to die, in some cases surrounded by their own vomit in cages. Okay, he is trash, he is a hateful person, he is a racist himself. So like, I don't understand anyone who thinks like, oh no, we're gonna defend him. That's not what he meant when he said there are very fine people on both sides. We know exactly what he meant. It's complete and utter nonsense when people try to defend him like that. But more importantly, you're right. I mean, there's a reason why people like Richard Spencer gravitate towards someone like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is very clear in his hatred for the powerless, for the disenfranchised. There's no question.
It's a very small thing. So, but with Milo exposing him like this, apparently, I mean, again, I'm looking for confirmation of who it's him. I believe it. But once guys like Milo finally start getting thrown off all these platforms to spread their hate and make money off of it, they get desperate. Like, I'm gonna start exposing all of my criminals with me too. Hey, you guys have said all these horrible things behind closed doors. I've got it on tape, because that's what happens with bad people. They start cutting each other's throats and start saying, hey, if I'm going down, you're going down too. It sounds like a gang of criminals that just got busted and they're holed up in their hideout, and now they gotta start throwing people out the window.
More people have to start taking a stand against this. Like more organizations, more platforms have to start taking a stand against all of this behavior, because the problem is normalizing it, and normalizing it by this argument that like, oh, we have to hear them out. They represent a big part of the country. They represent the beginning of this country. We've been there, we got it, we understand it. If we start being honest about it, then we won't have to have Richard Spencer on a national network program, speaking, because he's not in a hood, he's in a suit. And it's a weird, funny looking suit too, but like, it's, I just wish that we would be, not just as a whole, media in general would be more honest about who these people are and stop giving them platforms. Nobody needs to hear from this man.
Yeah, I
Nobody
totally
needs
agree.
to hear from Milo. Nobody needs to hear from any of these people.
I will say though, Milo had a little bit of a meltdown because he's having a tough time paying his bills. Aw.
No.
I mean, I remember the RNC. I remember him walking, you were there, JR. He had like his sunglasses on inside. He had like a posse with him going in Radio Row, going from one news organization to another. Everyone was desperate to interview him and talk to him. I mean, and I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this is the type of country that rewards bad people and bad behavior. This is a big celebrity right now. So nothing made me happier than to see his demise, because that's exactly what he deserved, right? He made a career out of harassing and terrorizing people of color on social media. That was how he got deplatformed on Twitter. That's exactly what he deserved. He's no victim. He made his bed, he gets to sleep in it. All right, one final story for you guys. I thought that was gonna be way more fun. I got heated instead of
That's a good thing.
with
it's
it.
okay.
All right.
Brooks David Duke line definitely made it.
That was good. Actually, some people have already written in. So from our members' comments, OK Wig says, Brooke just won the week with that comment about David Duke and Milo snitching on Spencer. Please make sure that's clipped and posted on YouTube. It will be, it will be. All right, and you can become a member by going to tyt.com/join. We read members' comments regularly when we come back from our breaks. All right, so let's talk about refugees. Donald Trump has now officially and dramatically lowered the number of refugees the United States is willing to bring in. In fact, he has lowered the number to 18,000 people beginning next year. Now, some might argue, all right, well, 18,000 sounds like a lot of people. What was the number before? When Obama was president back in 2016, he proposed a cap at 116,000 refugees. And at the time, I remember the United States getting criticism because the number was so low in comparison to other countries who had accepted Syrian refugees, for instance. So now Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that the core of the Trump administration's foreign policy is a commitment to make decisions based on reality, not wishes, and to drive optimal outcomes based on concrete facts. None of that is true. The idea of the Trump administration making decisions on concrete facts is hilarious. Now, under the new move by the Trump administration, only 5,000 people who wish to flee their home countries for fear of persecution due to their religion will be allowed admission into the United States as part of the refugee program. Fewer than 2,000 Central Americans will reportedly be allowed admission under the program going forward, as well as 4,000 Iraqis who aided the United States military during the Iraq War. I mean,
there shouldn't be a cap on that.
I know, I mean,
all.
But this is what Trump does. I mean, he abandoned our Kurdish allies in northern Syria. He's abandoned the Iraqis who helped our military with that disastrous war. And if you think that Trump is doing this because he hates migrants coming into the country, you'd be mistaken, because there's a specific type of migrant that Donald Trump loves very much. Back in 2017, he actually raised the cap for individuals who come in with H-2B visas. So in 2017, the Department of Homeland Security raised the cap on H-2B visas for foreign guest workers from 66,000 visas per year to 81,000. Just 3 days later, Trump Properties told the Department of Labor that they wanted approval to hire 76 guest workers using those visas.
So there's usefulness for him on that, and there's also usefulness on certain countries that in general, again, this gets lowered. He's mad about refugees coming in. I just want to mention the Pompeo line about optimal outcomes. It's optimal outcomes based off of what they believe. This has been a theme so far. I think we've had a few stories now about their racist policies. So again, the optimal outcomes is that not any of these brown or people from S-hole countries coming in here. Remember that quote from 2018? Trump was talking about Haiti. He goes, why do we want people from Haiti here? Then they got Africa. Why do we want those people from all these S-hole countries here? We should have more people from places like Norway was the rest of that quote.
Norway.
So Norway. So the right kind of people to have are the white folks that he believes are the best kind of people, the ones who can contribute to society. He also tried to lower things when immigrants come in and need public assistance, even when they're working all these jobs. And there's different parameters and aspects of their life that require that. Doesn't matter. Let's find a way to lower their ability to be in this country. Well, first off, get to this country, be in this country, or then stay in this country. Right. We want to turn over this rotation from all of these brown and black people and anything else that I can't recognize because they're kind of gray, to just have all these pure white people here. It lines up to exactly what the policies entails. And it was the first thing he said when he was running. Pompeo's right. It's exactly what they promised from the beginning. Hey, all those people from those countries that I don't like, that's my #1 priority. Get them out of here. Don't let them come, demean, and make sure everyone hates them. If they die, who cares?
So look, but that's the thing. That's half the story, because when it comes to offering refuge to people who desperately need it, yeah, Trump will give them the middle finger. And he'll signal to his base, like, this is what I promised and this is what I'm following through on. But remember, his message was an American first message. I'm gonna bring jobs back. But then what does he do? He turns around, he lifts the cap or raises the cap on foreign workers. What happened to getting Americans jobs, right?
Also, if America first, why would you be threatening to pull aid from the most populated state?
Yep, California.
These things, they don't add up. This is
because in his eyes, California, that's not America. In his eyes, if you have the audacity to vote against him, speak out against him, be one of his political opponents, he doesn't see you as human, he doesn't see you as an American, he doesn't care about you. He's a bratty little vengeful child. That's who Donald Trump is. And it's terrifying on one hand. And then when you think about how old he is, like he's in his 70s and he acts like a petulant child every single day.
Doesn't matter which way it goes. There was another push they had for, and every kind of person that comes in that does things the wrong way. It's just there's, yeah.
Yes.
I think,
okay. There's a big story actually. I don't know if this is what you're alluding to. A federal judge just struck down the Trump administration's rule that if immigrants come in, they have to have their own health insurance. A judge is like, yeah, bro, you can't do that. No, I'm gonna strike this down. He keeps losing battle after battle because it's unconstitutional.
It's all based on what he planned from the beginning. Like I was saying, it's exactly what is working out. And to ignore and deny it, it's just you're going along and empowering him. So whenever anyone does oppose him, then there's threats coming to them over it. Yeah. We've seen it over and over again.
All right, well that does it for hour 2. The conversation is next. Brooke Thomas will be hosting that.
That's right. I was thinking I was going home.
You're not done yet. Not done yet. So stick around. Make sure you check that out. JR, thank you for hosting with me. Thank you to you as well, Brooke. Yes. Looking forward to the conversation, and we will be back in just a few. Stick around.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hun. And this has been The Breakdown. Was that good, guys?
Okay, not enough hashtag use. Hashtag abs, hashtag model, hashtag woke bae.
Hashtag one black friend.
I'm thinking more rings.
I got him here.
You need more accessories, way more accessories.
I don't know where to put it.
Come on, throw these on. Woke bae, not sleep bae.
More sexy too.
When's the last time you posted on Instagram? Too long. Come on, man. No, you need to post at least once an hour. What's the outfit of the day today? Is this what you're going with? No. We need more accessories. We need.
This doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't. For your gay audience, man.
Yeah, the gays love you, man.
Okay. What else? What else do I need to do?
You haven't appropriated a culture in a week.
We have like a kimono or something.
Damn, that looks good on you, dude.
Perfect. How many rings you got on? Do we have any more?
I got 3 more.
Yeah, can we get more rings on this?
And when you're done, kiss the ring. Look at the camera. Kiss the ring. Maybe like a little wink.
Islam's role in terrorism and all the Huffington Post articles weren't doing well. I wasn't.
How many likes did our last outfit of the day picture have?
Only like 100,000.
So I think that's where your focus needs to be. I hear you on all the blah, blah, blah social issue. We need to focus on followers.
Kids in Yemen.
We don't care if you sleep at night.
Dab, dab.
Okay, I'll dab.
There you go.
More.
Talk about yourself more.
Yeah. I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, be more into it.
Instagram is important for me. Americans losing access to healthcare coverage.
I hear you. Attack Tommy more.
I've done it so many. She shoots out of her living room now. It's like punching down now.
We're okay with that. But it helps the brand.
We made you. We got you verified.
You're nothing without us.
I don't know what else I need to do here.
Dude, just take off that shirt.
That's exactly why Tommy Lauren is stupid. I hate you. I'm Hassan Piker. Follow me on Instagram.
Hashtag woke bae.
Hashtag woke bae. Please follow me.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Cenk Uygur joins us.
We are progressive and unapologetically so. Very happy to say that millennial and Gen Z generations are massively progressive along with us.
Democrats, they've been so weak for so long. For God's sake, fight for your side.
I would not like to compromise with Republicans. I would like to defeat them. Lynn, do you support Donald Trump?
Yes, I like Donald Trump.
Well, that's why we think you're racist. The 5 black kids in Central Park did not commit the rape. He said, who cares? Keep them in prison anyway. They probably did something. He's a terrible guy. Very fine people on the side chanting, Jews will not replace us. He says we should ban all Muslims. Well, that's bigotry by definition. He said it during the campaign trail over and over again. Called Latinos criminals and rapists. See, you're used to Republicans being strong on television and Democrats cowering. New day in America. Progressives, we actually fight back.
Hey there, thanks for watching us here on The Conversation. I'm Brooke Thomas, filling in for Cenk tonight, and I'll be back the next couple of nights, and then he'll be back soon. But thank you for joining us. We have a couple of great guests. As always, let's get right into it. First, we are joined by Jasmine Canick, journalist and activist, and we're gonna talk about the case, or cases actually, involving Ed Buck. Jasmine, good evening, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. I really wanted to talk about this for a while. Just in case our viewers don't know, Ed Buck is a Democratic donor who has been charged with 2 counts of methamphetamine distribution resulting in death. These are federal charges. This is after 2 black men fatally overdosed at his West Hollywood apartment. Now, Jasmine, I know you've been covering this, the involvement surrounding Ed Buck for a long time. For our viewers, tell us, what's going on.
So Ed Buck is a Democratic donor here in West Hollywood. He was known as this sort of LGBT civil rights, animal rights activist. But he was sort of living 2 lives, and we found out about that first when Jamel Moore died in his apartment of a crystal meth overdose in July of 2017. At the time, the sheriff's department just thought it was another meth overdose because we have a lot of those here in LA County. But we found Jamel Moore's journal, and it detailed very clearly what his relationship with Ed Buck was, including the fact that Ed Buck had gotten him hooked on meth, had given him meth, was forcing him to take meth. And sort of you could see from reading his journal sort of the deterioration, what he was going through. And his mother allowed me to publish that journal. And so when I did that, 19 days later after he died is when the sheriff's department decided to open a homicide investigation. So we have this homicide investigation. It doesn't really go anywhere. But during that time period, I had many other young men come forward to me and allow me to tell their stories about their involvement with Ed Buck. And it was very similar. It was this white man who picked up black gay men, most of the time online using dating apps, but occasionally on the street, like a Santa Monica Boulevard or a Skid Row. And he would target black men who he knew were in need of shelter, money, food. And he would say, look, the more meth you let me shoot into you, the more money I'm gonna give you. And it was case after case after case after case of this. And we started screaming about this. Couldn't get any traction on it, not really with the media, definitely not with the sheriff's department at the time and with the district attorney's office. And then Jackie Lacey, our district attorney, black woman, first black woman in that office here in LA, comes back in July of 2018 and says, you know what? We're not gonna press any charges against Ed Buck. And then 6 months later, Timothy Dean dies in Ed Buck's apartment of the exact same causes.
Not even similar circumstances, but the exact same. They're almost identical, right?
Crystal meth overdose. And so now we have 2 bodies, right? And we have about a dozen other young black gay men who have stepped forward as witnesses. And so we start screaming a lot louder. Different detectives were assigned to the case this time because there was some media attention on it. They couldn't really just slide it under the rug. And then what happened quite recently is that there was another young man who went over there and he overdosed, but he did not die. And he managed to let the police, the sheriff's department know what happened to him. And so, and then also this is really important. So you mentioned in the opener that this was a federal case, and there's a reason for that, because our local district attorney didn't do anything. And so she says her hands were tied because of California laws. So the feds were brought in. And so as of right now, Ed Buck is charged with providing the meth, the drugs that led to the deaths of Jamel and Timothy Dean. It's the exact same charge that Cameron Pettit is charged with in the death of, I don't know why the rapper's name is escaping me, but it's the exact same charge. And then he's also charged with administering meth to 3 of the victims so far. On the state side, Ed Buck has only been charged in what are they calling, running a drug house, and a couple of other drug charges that would have amounted to 5 years in state prison, if that. And in California, 5 years could easily be 5 days or 5 weeks. So we're really happy about that, but we're we're still working this case. I mean, there are every week there are new victims. There are victims that we're still trying to get in touch with that, we need to talk to the authorities. We're trying to work as closely as we can with the feds to make sure that they can make their case. Because as you know, just because you get arrested and charged doesn't mean that you get convicted. And when Ed Buck was initially arrested, they gave him a $4 million bail. He had $4 million. If the feds hadn't stepped in and took him and gave him no bail, Ed Buck would have been on the streets free.
And so I think you were talking about Mac Miller there, the rapper, that's the name you couldn't think of. But also, I wanna go back to Jackie Lacey, because have you gotten any answers as far as why it took so long? Why exactly were her hands tied? There has to be, I mean, those questions are everywhere, right?
Look, I'll tell you, I met with Jackie Lacey one-on-one this past summer to explain to her how serious and how important this case was. I don't think at the time she took me very seriously. I think she takes me extremely seriously now that she's seen the fallout and what has happened. But what we did learn last week was that and we learned this directly from Jackie Lacey, was that one of the reasons why Ed Buck was never charged in Jamel Moore's death was because apparently, as she said, the detectives who arrived on the scene were not homicide detectives. They were just they were deputies from the local West Hollywood station. They found the meth in Ed Buck's notorious red toolbox. And apparently they didn't have a warrant for that. And they weren't supposed to go in there. And they were told by a coroner's investigator, if you believe that they had permission to go into it, and they actually did legally. So that knocked out all of that evidence. So that's what she's blaming now as the reason why Ed Buck was never charged in Jamel Moore's death. And what we've said all along and will continue to say is that had he been charged then, Timothy Dean would still be alive today. Because there's a solid chance that he would have been convicted and he would have been in prison, and he would not have been around for Timothy Dean to OD on meth in his apartment in January of this year.
There's something else I wanted to ask, because I've read a lot. Is there like an I guess alleged history of racism with Ed Buck?
Yes. Long alleged history of racism that dates all the way back to his Republican days in Arizona. So before he moved to California and became a Democrat in West Hollywood, he was a Republican in Phoenix, Arizona. And one of the most interesting stories I found about his racism in Phoenix was that he called the Black police chief there a baboon. And it made the LA Times here. And this was like back in I would say like the 80s.
Okay.
So, this, when you talk about a long history, this was like back in 1987. We found current meaning within the last few years, Facebook posts of different things that he said. But most importantly, the victims, the survivors who did not die, another common thread in all of their stories was that a part of the deal with them, getting any money from Ed Buck meant that Ed Buck could call them the N-word and other names that he got off on calling them.
Jasmine, what's next? Because I know right now Ed Buck is being held without bail in federal holding, and he's got, I guess, those smaller but similar state charges pending. I heard some talk of civil lawsuits as well. What's next at this point?
So here's where we are now.
Okay.
Ed Buck's currently in federal jail. His trial will not be until August 2020. He will not be out of jail. He will stay in jail until his trial. There is a current civil suit filed on behalf of the estate of Jamel Moore that is currently working its way through the civil court system here in California. And we expect to file a civil lawsuit on behalf of the Timothy Dean family very soon as well. So he'll be dealing with those two. The state case is basically put on hold for the federal case right now, right? Because feds trump state. So the state case is just there in the wings. If they need to use it, they'll do it. But we're hoping for a conviction in the federal case. And just in terms of the community and the families, look, like I said, it's a long road to conviction. we're trying to make sure that, all of the victims and everyone involved, talks to the authorities and to the prosecutors, and that we're actually able to see this case all the way through to fruition. We still have a very long ways to go. And for most of us working on this, next steps are making sure that District Attorney Jackie Lacey is not reelected in March 2020 here in Los Angeles County.
Jasmine Canick, journalist and activist here on the Young Turks this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. And I definitely want to have you back as we follow along with this.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg.
All right, we will be right back with the second half of tonight's the conversation here on the Young Turks. Stay with us.
Now baby, move that fat, baby, move that fat. We thugged out.
What's J&A?
Jacori and Arthur.
You guys share a mug?
Yeah, you both take our hot cocoa black.
That doesn't make any sense.
Plus, I'm right-handed and Arthur's left-handed, so our lips wouldn't even touch the same area. It's perfect.
No, I'm not left-handed.
What do you mean? I've seen you type with your left hand.
Yeah, and also with my right hand. That's how typing works.
So this is what democracy looks like.
When I think back to the debates in 2016, this was a very different party that was debating.
First time in my lifetime that I've actually had progressives represent us.
Bernie Sanders has changed the arithmetic.
This whole debate tonight was shaped by progressives.
We have to live our values every day in a campaign.
She came with receipts. That was her strongest moment by far.
This is going to be one of the best primaries we've ever seen.
This is what we've been saying would happen, and now it's playing out on the debate stage.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
We are onto something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you that say no corporate back money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free healthcare for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer healthcare, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Just Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a betting. Absolutely not.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
there, welcome back to the conversation. I'm Brooke Thomas, still hanging in there, and I am so excited. Y'all, tweet me and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think this is a first, what you're about to see, because I've been on with Ken Klippenstein on the damage report with John. I think we maybe been on the main show or something at some point. There's something, but Brooke Thomas, Kenny Clips, one-on-one, the more famous than your president on Twitter. Kenny Clips joining us right now, on the Young Turks this evening. How are you doing?
That's quite an intro. I hope I can live up to it.
I know, and unfortunately we have to jump into a serious story here, but I am glad to have you here with us. Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
All right, let's get right into it, because you just put out a piece very recently on TYT Investigates. I'm sorry, I didn't let everyone know. If you don't know who I'm talking to, Ken Klippenstein is the senior investigative reporter for TYT. And so at the beginning of your article, right, I want to just read this part. It says, President Trump's US military deployment at the southern border has been authorized to use lethal force in response to civil disturbances at ports of entry. And that should make everyone's kind of mouth drop. What did you find out?
Well, so these documents, which were leaked to me by someone in the Pentagon who was concerned about the direction things were going, shed light on what's called the rules of engagement that the military deployment at the southern border, pursuant to President Trump's direct declaration of a national emergency, according to him, because of undocumented immigrants coming into the country. What the documents show is that those rules of engagement, as you say, they're authorized to, in certain circumstances, use lethal force, not just on individuals at ports of entry, but specifically in cases of civil unrest. And so when you hear civil unrest, that's usually something that you would meet with, non-lethals. And I cite in the story, which you can find on tyt.com/investigates, the Army's own handbook that kind of provides guidance on how they're supposed to operate, saying that in general, civil disturbances are supposed to be met with non-lethal tools, of which there are many more now than there even were decades ago. Crowd suppressants, those kind of things. So yeah, for all those reasons, I was really shocked as well.
Has this actually been implemented?
Yeah, it has. And if you go through the operations order, which is the document that was given to me and that discloses all of this, it seems as though it came directly from POTUS.
Can you explain what the full extent of this force would be?
Well, they can literally kill someone if they perceive the people in these, civil unrest situations, if they believe them to, pose a threat of serious bodily injury or death to Border Patrol law enforcement there. And what's interesting is the way that they, define it is they can use as lethal force in situations where CBP or other military, if I recall, are in riot formation. And so that, suggests strongly, I think, that, this is how they might meet rioters, which I haven't seen any cases of riots. I don't see why they would happen at ports of entry,
right?
But that's something that they have a contingency for.
And so now you explain why this is obviously against normal military rules, and this seems like a dumb question, but as we've learned, the president and what's legal don't always line up. So is this legal?
It's sort of a gray area, because we have something called posse comitatus, which is a Reconstruction era law after Civil War. Surprise, surprise, after the Civil War, people weren't too keen on the military stomping around US soil. And under posse comitatus, the Posse Comitatus Act, the military is not allowed to, places severe restrictions on the military's ability to operate on domestic soil. And the spirit of that is supposed to be, that has a corrosive effect on civil society, on democracy. This is that military is operating on domestic soil. That's how military dictatorships arise. So in light of all of that, it does seem to fly in the face of at least the spirit of that order. But when a president makes something like a national security declaration, declares a crisis like that, that does give them extraordinary powers. So it's unclear to me.
Okay, so I want to move on to something that you brought to my attention. I was joking about your Twitter earlier, but I do get a lot of information from your Twitter. And you were tweeting about this. I want you guys to see a little bit of it. It's a billionaire investor, Leon Cooperman, discussing his concerns about the 2020 election and specifically Elizabeth Warren. Take a look.
My game plan is half I'm going to give away in my lifetime, and the other half I'm going to give to my family as a legacy in the form of a foundation where they can meet periodically and give away the money.
So,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go finish your thought, Lee.
Well, I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
I think it's kind of obvious people can not only see the emotion on your face, but hear it in your voice when you talk about this, Lee. Why?
I care. That's it.
Ken, help me out here.
That poor guy. I mean, can you imagine having that much money and not having the time to spend it? And then, of all people, you have these politicians yelling at you that people want water without lead in it. You know, they want their kids to go to school.
So bad.
I mean, what is this world coming to? You know?
That is so bad. I don't. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that. But I guess I can. But like, it's just like even like wanting people to empathize with you. People can't empathize with you. That's the point. It's if more people could empathize with you, you wouldn't. You wouldn't be that rich.
I love this idea that we're not hearing the billionaire point of view. Right. When, you know, it's on a billionaire-owned, investor-owned network. It's a billionaire talking. It's talking to somebody else that probably went to a school funded by billionaires, and we're not hearing enough from them. We need to, we need to hear more in order to understand the plight of the forgotten bit. There needs to be the equivalent of the when the reporters go to the Midwest and they visit the diners. We need to start visiting billionaires and getting coffee with them to see the other side of the story.
I'd take that job. I'd do that. Can you? What do you say to like people when I think there is this kind of, it's the hot word these days, billionaires. Although there's not as many of them as you'd like, I guess. The people who like to defend it, and because of the way the system sets up, the people who are defending it are very less likely going to like become one. But how do you explain to people like this argument against billionaires existing in America?
Well, I tend to think that it has an inherently corrosive effect on democracy, and I think that it is irrelevant whether or not he means well, because when you have that much money, it's almost like a planet where it has a gravitational force of its own, and it'll pull politicians towards it. It'll pull, people want that money, and so when you have one individual with that much power, I think it's inconceivable that it's not going to have some effect on the politics, whether they want it to or not. And even if they're well-meaning, that's going to be a disproportionate exercise of power that is not going to reflect the majority of the country. So I don't know that it matters what their beliefs are, if they're a Republican or Democrat. I think you give someone that much privilege, it's going to affect other folks.
And even like the idea that this man that we were just talking about was well-meaning, this is something else he said. He said it's appealing to the lowest common denominator and basically trying to turn people's heads around by promising free stuff. I'm like, is the lowest common denominator those people?
Yeah, it's almost like he's going to launch into a discussion of it reminds me, it's like the medieval era where the highborn have the right blood, and those types with the dirty sort of the undesirables of society. It was very weird to see that coming out of just having seen Joker. I'll say that.
Speaking of a joke, can we just have we have a couple minutes left. Can we have a little conversation about why hey boomer is not the new N-word?
I love it. It's after how many years of millennials are ruining this, millennials destroyed the diamond industry, millennials, are destroying avocados, they're doing this. And then one joke, one thing after years of this. And I'm in media. I've seen these things posted to Facebook, Twitter, social media. It's like and then you do one thing back and it's, oh my God, what is this world coming to? Why are they? It's the same thing as the billionaire thing.
You're right. It's just about, it's ridiculous. I think it's so frustrating. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so fascinating how people like to run to that, like when they have their own issues. And I don't really love the hey boomer thing. It's not my thing. I didn't really like it. I do think it's kind of like, it's a joke and it's lighthearted. I thought it was it's like saying like, hey, okay, old man. And that makes me feel bad, but nothing is the new N-word, because most of the time when people make that comparison, they can spell one of the words out and not the other one. And it's just, that doesn't click for people. And that's so fascinating that you would put that out on.
It's almost like the account was run by people that say, hey, boomer, to kind of undermine their art. Because it's the funniest, most ridiculous. I can't think of a better illustration of exactly what they're making. As they say, boomer is a state of mind. When people say that, they don't literally mean people, ages 55 and above or whatever it is. They just mean the idea of someone who's out of touch, which I can't think of a better illustration of.
So like people who struggle with Google Docs. So I would be a boomer.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say to myself, I'm having a boomer moment. That's just anytime I can't figure out compatibility. Right.
Ken, this has been great. Thank you so much for being with us here this evening.
Really nice to chat with you.
Yeah, it's great. Keep putting out great work. It's always, everything you put out is great. So we're glad to have you.
I really appreciate that.
All right, that's it for the conversation. I'm Brooke Thomas. I'm glad to be hanging out in Cenk's absence, and I will be back tomorrow. And Post Game is here, and I think Brett Ehrlich is forcing me to join him. I think, no, I'm just kidding. No, of course, I'm happy to be here. And that's it, right? Yeah. Oh no, you know what? Skip just reminded me, I have a podcast, okay? And I don't talk about this enough, but it's called Controlling Our Narrative. And I think it's a great podcast, and I think everyone should check it out. And if I'm gonna borrow the seat for a little bit, I can steal some of the time too, I guess, right? I don't know, that's how it works. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for the Post Game. If you are not a member, you should be. Go to tyt.com/join and become one. I'm Brooke Thomas, thanks for watching.